Hello, I'm Peter Abrahamson, and I'm the bot whisperer on BattleBots, and you guys are listening to the RoboCast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Malice64, and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself, Steve the AmericanKilljoy, and World of Woodrow, and of course, Pete Abrahamson, the bot whisperer. Welcome back, Pete. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm having a pretty good time. How are you guys?
It's wonderful.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. It's been a long season up to this point. Obviously, we've got through 10 episodes so far. We've got a few more to go.
Yes.
How have you found it watching it back? Because obviously you were there for every single fight. You know, you sit there, you're watching it, but you don't get all the same perspective as maybe you do on TV. Mm-mm. How have you found it watching it back?
Funny is, I mean, you have to understand, for the 2 weeks we shot, I was probably working 18-hour days. Oh. And so my recollection of some of these fights is like, I'll be like, they fought? I don't remember that fight. And then I'll watch it go, oh yeah, now I remember that happening. But there are times when it's like, I'm just a blank slate. Like, I don't even remember this happening. What time of day, what day, like, where was I? Oh, I was sitting there next to the arena, but I don't remember this. Because it was a brutal schedule this year.
Yeah. I'll say one of those factors of that was, of course, moving venue. Of course, this is the first time since in the very late 90s. I know the late 90s was the last time we saw a Vegas event. How was that kind of? We saw a lot of posts from Greg and on the BattleBots account, kind of suggesting looking around. Obviously, there was the post of in California, that kind of beautiful archway and things like that in the sea. Very artsy. I respect it a lot. But Vegas was ultimately the home chosen for this season and potentially next season as well for BattleBots. How was the logistical process of moving a whole arena to Vegas?
So, the arena always had to move anyways. Mm-hmm. Like, we never got to leave it up in Long Beach. That was part of the going to this venue in Vegas. Right now, the arena is still standing in the same venue in Vegas for the future event for the next season. The actual shipping costs and packing that thing up, setting it up and tearing it down were a huge part of the budget. So being able to leave it and find a place that says you can leave this up for a full year and have 2 seasons out of it was a big boon to the production. Just because that is such a massive part of it. I think it packs up in 6 semis or something like that. I mean, it's just, there are so many pieces to put together. And then ship and then store and there's and then the time it takes for, all those guys that you watch come in with Trey to tear apart 2 bots or put a fire out are the same guys that built the box, right? So they have to come in 6+, 8+ weeks out ahead of time to build that arena. And that is not an easy process. It's a long process. So it's that part of going to Vegas was a huge plus. The venue, it's funny because it's called a tent in Vegas, but it's a building with cloth walls, or fabric walls. Other than that, there was so much steel in there. There is full air conditioning, full lighting and electrical systems that it's not really a tent. I mean,
it's a very high-tech tent.
Yes, exactly. But that part was a great space. It had a lot of room to be able to set the bleachers up in a certain way. The only thing that kind of was, I guess, a hindrance was we had to go outside in Las Vegas, 105 degrees, to transition across the way to get to the pits. And so that's definitely an annoying part, is there's some stuff that has to happen outside in Vegas weather.
In the middle of summer as well.
In the middle of summer. Yeah, or at the very end of summer, which is for the Southwest is usually the worst.
Very toasty indeed. I think another thing that we kind of wanted to talk about, the 2-0 robots, before we kind of crack on with the bracket itself, because a lot of people have been confused online as to why certain teams were given 3 fights, certain teams were given 2, and obviously a lot of the teams at 2-0 were kind of thinking, why didn't they be fighting each other for higher seeds, basically? What kind of explanation can you give for us and for other people?
as I sort of said, we had a very compressed schedule. So trying to fit in 3 fights for everybody was like, this may not happen. We started to realize near the end. So bots like, I think Uppercut was a 2-0 that went on. Well, Uppercut has 2 KOs.
Yeah.
Right? Had actually a very good record. It was pretty clear they're going to move forward anyways. So that was sort of the no-brainer. How do we sort of fix our schedule that is so overly packed right now? Try to get as many fights in. And the fights that matter, actually, that we're going to give people 3 fights are the ones that are going to tell us if they're making it or not. Sure. But a bot like Uppercut, we're just going to pass forward because we know they're going to be in, even if they lost, they're still in the 32.
They're still got a strong enough strength schedule.
They had a great schedule, and they had KOs. So it made them sort of look like, yes, they qualified and are deserving of being in the 32.
They've become worthy.
If only I could be so worthy. Yes.
I do want to, before we crack on.
Who else? Sorry,
go ahead.
I apologize for not remembering. Who else was 2-0?
Rotator.
Whiplash.
Rotator.
Yeah.
Was it? It was Rotator? Okay,
Yeah,
so Rotator had...
Whiplash, Shatter, I think.
Shatter also was 2-0?
Yeah.
I thought that they had 3 fights.
Mm.
Oh, no. Adam was actually very upset with that. He really wanted 3 fights. That's right. Yes, I remember that now.
Yeah, Hypershock as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was probably decisions made were based about these bots would make it in anyways, even if they lost their fight.
Yeah. Which makes sense. Obviously you said, the schedule was extremely tight this year. And of course you lost a day of filming as well with the power cut.
Oh no.
The whole of Vegas went down, didn't it, for a day, I think it was, and then
we had this giant from the city came in at 480 and then split to 220s, and then you would break it down to 110. But one of the whole legs of the 480 was down from the city. It wasn't us that blew a circuit. It was this whole thing went down. And so we had certain areas of the production, like the arena itself had some power, but a whole chunk of the pits did not. And it was like, we can't do this. We can't.
No, absolutely not.
So it was just a rough, there was crap like that was rough.
Yeah.
We survived, but it does put a dent in the schedule for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. I think the last thing is, before we do the bracket, let's talk about maybe some honourable mentions and maybe some robots that we're kind of surprised that didn't even feature. Like, for example, an old sparring partner of yours, Donald and Lockjaw. It just didn't happen for him this year, did it?
Nope.
Really,
it didn't.
It's a real shame.
That's
real shocking.
It is a tough thing. Watching Donald lose is it's heart-wrenching for me, obviously, because I've known Donald. Out of all the current competitors, I probably know Donald longer than anybody else that's there, because I've known him since '96. So yeah, it's been a while. So it is hard to see him not make it through. But I don't ever there's the internet will immediately go, oh, he's washed up. Tombstone loses one fight, exactly. And it's Ray's out.
So reactionary,
and it's no. This is part of the chaos of.
You only have to look at Bounty Hunters last year, where Donald had a really rough season, followed by an amazing flat-out win to the Bounty title against Bronco. It's just it happens.
Yeah. And that's the thing it's a giant box of chaos, and you don't always know. Even though you could say, "Oh, for sure, this bot's going to win," you're like, "No, something could just change," and that happens. Yeah. So I never I don't throw out Donald with the bathwater. No,
of course not.
He's going to continue on, and he's a good enough competitor that he'll probably have another season where it's great. You just never know. Same with the Tombstone. Just because Ray may lose a fight, I will never just say, Tombstone's washed up.
No way.
You can
really, it's so washed up, yet every single competitor goes, oh, crap, I got to fight Tombstone.
Where's my Tombstone setup? Get it out of the crate.
if Tombstone was washed up, then like people would be like, "Oh, great! I got a cupcake. I can fight Tombstone." No, ever say that. Ever.
Oh dear me. Should we talk about some robots? Should we talk about some
Let's
robots?
go.
Are we talking?
Let's talk
I thought we already were talking about robots.
Well, we are, but some more robots.
Top 34.
Top 34.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start off with.
What? That's weird. Aren't there supposed to be 32?
So
how did that happen?
Well,
it's like March Madness. We got our first 4. It's sort of similar.
My thing is, and I'm so happy that this has happened this year, because if we cast our minds back 12 months, it was the big thing. P1 didn't get in. It had a 2-1 record. And this year you kind of addressed that and said, okay, well, we'll go off record first, and then strength of schedule, and then you kind of got similar. I mean, Skorpios had an amazing season. They've had 2 incredible fights, and if they were kind of to miss out, or Hydra to miss out, or even Malice in this case to miss out, I feel like it would be a bit unfair on any of those teams. And the fact that they've been given one more opportunity
to play in,
exactly. It's just so. It's great. I'm really, really happy that this has kind of been gone. You've gone away and you thought, okay, let's make this not happen again.
It is tough, just so you guys understand.
Of course.
It is very tough on our end. Like when we are sitting in Aaron's trailer discussing every nuance of every bot. And like, I know I was just seeing, because I hate Facebook, there was a bunch of stuff on Facebook just of people like going, who the are these selection committee people? They don't know what they're doing. And they're making choices that just don't mean anything. It's like, dude, one, go build a robot, then come talk to us.
That's exactly right.
Dude, this is a big process, and we have to like get every bot out and kind of really discuss like the merits of each robot and why this is working in to get them to this point.
Sometimes I will say that for those that, their favourite robot didn't get into the bracket or whatever, and they're upset about it, or they have to go through an extra fight, it happens, and sometimes you just got to get over it and come again next year.
Look at all the Lockjaw fans this year. Everyone who wants to see Donald, compete in it. We all do. Everyone's secretly a fan of Lockjaw, I think. But like, it's
fine. He's 0-3. Just let him in anyway. No,
but that's not how it works. Ultimately, there has to be a line drawn somewhere. You can't have a round of 48, a round of 64, because then it gets.
We don't have time for that.
Exactly.
No, and then it would make the regular season useless. What's the point of the regular season at that point?
Yeah, exactly. Well, after that little aside, Malice versus Skorpios is the play-in for Seed 32.
Yes.
Quite the match.
And and of course, Bunny and Diana are just like
the best friends.
Friends. Like they are BFFs all the way, and this is one of those dream fights. Actually, to be able to have this kind of fight is so great. Like it's like what they've always dreamed about. It's like, I can't wait. We're gonna fight it.
It's so good, and I think. If you look at historical data, of course, Skorpios has beaten Tombstone in the past, and he's very well suited to horizontals. We also said that about Blacksmith in its horizontal setup, and Malice chewed through that. Yeah. It was very, very impressive. I think they really dug themselves out of a hole in that last fight.
Malice is a perfect example of the whole washed up argument, because after looking at the first 2 fights that they had, you sort of think, well, they were good, they lasted a long time, but Malice really wasn't hitting quite right to last year, and they're not going to do too well this year, and then they fight Blacksmith and absolutely wipe the floor with it. And it's just like, okay, well, I was wrong, and I'm eating humble pie now.
Yep. Here we are. Hello, we're here.
We've done it several times over the last couple of years. But this fight in particular, I'm intrigued to see how it goes. Obviously, I would back Skorpios as the favourite initially, but you cannot write Malice off, especially after that last result.
No, you can't. I mean, Malice still hits hard.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is one good connection can change a whole fight instantly.
Yep,
correct.
Think of like Glitch taking on Hydra, right? Yes. And Hydra flying up in the air and then coming down. Landing. And the tongue of the flipper making contact.
Such a perfect hit. Boom, what a catch by the camera.
It was done for Hydra after that, because it no longer has the ability to do a flip, to get to use its weapon. And that's the chaos. Because it wasn't like that was, I'm driving Glitch in perfectly and making that hit. No, it was, I bopped Hydra, and Hydra comes up and then lands on its own weapon onto our weapon. Like, it's just so much chaos all the time that you can't gauge. And this is a great example of like, okay, so Malice had two crappy fights earlier. Yeah. They had a great fight against Blacksmith. Now they're coming in to fight somebody who's very horizontal defensive. But there's still some exposed tires. Yes. Wheels can get taken off. Like there were things. Side loading on that weapon of Skorpios can really damage it.
As we saw with Blacksmith as well. Exactly the same thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So there's, I never count anybody out. Like, when I watch fights, I have in my head who I think might be a favorite in here, but very often it changes right in the middle of the fight.
Oh yeah. And that's the most fun part about it, is it's the unpredictability. That's what we want from the sport. We don't want it to be like, all right, such a robot's fighting. Oh, it's foregone conclusion. That's what makes the sport so fun to watch. And when I try to introduce it to people, it'll be like, it's not just big metal boxes pushing against each other. There's a lot more that goes into all of these fights. There's a lot more nuance that like it's tough to sometimes it's tough to explain to people who are new to the sport, and it's something that like maybe you kind of grow to appreciate the more you watch. So
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Second play-in for Seed 31, and what a difference a year makes.
Yeah. My. Talk about peaks and valleys.
Yeah. I mean, it's been very clear that, Jake, like, he's been so frustrated with Hydra. Like, the thing is with Jake that makes him so great, he gets under people's skin. He can see that. We've gone away and we spoke to him this year. We kind of said to him, look, we appreciate the fact that you irritate people, and that's great. It's so good.
His villainness.
Yeah, right? It's great. And the thing is, though, with people like Ray in the past, and obviously Jake last season in particular, it worked so well because their robots were good, and if you beat them, it's a big, it's like the villain lost,
it's a heck of a scalp.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas this season, it's very strange considering that over the past couple seasons, Hydra's been pretty bulletproof in terms of reliability. And then this season, just all those problems that we kind of maybe thought would happen a couple of years ago.
Bubbling up to the surface.
Got a little Waiachi bug going on there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember which one of their fights, but one of them, the speed controller that controls the hydraulic pump, just
that was fight one.
Caught fire.
Yeah, against
and that was it, right?
Yeah. It's crazy the fact that it's just, I say, it's slumped from one seed to potentially and only potentially 31. I don't think it's fair also to kind of write off Defender in this, because they have had a solid season and they've only lost to Ribbot. You know?
Yeah. A loss to the now 2 seed is no. I mean, and the fact that they might even get a chance again, say they win this fight, they possible redemption.
There's a good chance for that.
There's an old phrase in BattleBots, I think Chris Rose said many moons ago, that not everyone's brackets are built the same, or not everybody's like strength of schedule is built the same. Defenders certainly had a slightly weaker strength of schedule. It's had a one fight YouTubed, one where it lost on camera, and then the other it won by sort of pushing things around for a bit. But it's 2-1. It's looking good, but it's maybe not looking quite as strong as some of the other 2-1s.
I don't know. I have a strange suspicion that we may see upset central again here. I mean, this might be a bracket breaker.
Ooh. Can it be the upset?
Look at that.
Can it be the upset if it's going up against the 1 and 2 bottom?
Yeah, I love Jake. I love the Waiachi boys, but you haven't proven to me that you can last. None of these robots have so far. I don't know. He had a really good flip against Glitch. It's like, that's what we wanted to see. And then once again, burnout, only a couple flips left, and then once that's it, his arm is stuck up and he's a sitting duck. I don't know. I don't know. This is a tough one, because it's like Defender, good robot. It really needs to use the box to its advantage. If it doesn't, it's gonna be hard to kind of bet its way, you know. But I
mean, this is Jason. This Defender is based off of Krabby, I think it was, or there was a little 1-pounder he made that was incredibly successful, right? He's been driving this style of bot for a while, but going up to 250 pounds, this is the first time for this bot. There was a lot learned for him to sort of be in the limelight instead of Matt being in the limelight all the time.
That's another thing as well.
Yeah, living in the brother's shadow a little bit.
Then, just sort of showing what he can do, and also an untested robot. So he may not have had the strongest strength of schedule. Right. Now he's against one of the greatest flippers ever. Mm-hmm. So can defenders survive gravity? We will see.
We will see. I've got a feeling that the longer the fight goes on, the better it's going to go for defender. I think that's kind of if you can kind of survive the initial flip, 2 flips, 3 flips.
Yes.
Because obviously Jake as well last year struggled against Whiplash, which is obviously I know it's not the same robot, but it's a control bot essentially. It's
the same team.
Exactly, exactly. And he's got a point to prove, Jake. He's got a point to prove, and I feel like I feel like if anyone's going to do it, he can, but he's still got a point to prove.
Jake benefits from trying to get this fight over as quick as possible. The longer it goes, like he'll be looking for the edge of the arena, trying to look for those ring out zones, and
definitely doing it by accident.
Definitely by accident. I know. Yeah, we've harped on it. We don't want to pressure you. It's been enough.
I will refrain from talking about arena outs and my feelings versus the rules versus what I think it should be. Mm-hmm. Whatever. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's Trey's arena, and that's the way it is.
We're going to let that be. Yes, that's perfectly fine.
We'll leave that one right there. Number 30. We have a definitive number 30, and it is a glorious return for the loudest robot in all of BattleBots, ICEWave. Maybe not the most spectacular, but when it makes the noise.
When it does make contact, though, but think about against Vanquish.
Yes.
The bifurcation that happened with Vanquish to split into.
We can't help but think about that fight by the amount it's put on screen for us to see.
And huge, of course, and huge when it's split in half. Yeah.
Oh yeah, huge.
Tweedy's at home.
I mean, that was this kind of bot. ICEWave is Huge's Achilles heel, right? That is exactly the wrong bot for Huge to fight because UHMW cuts really easy with a cutting style device, right? It does great against blunt trauma, but it does not fare well against cutting something saw-like. And this, at the speed it spins at, was just a giant saw and cut right through that UHMW without problem.
It's definitely a robot now from a bygone era, I think, ICEWave. As much as it's done well this year,
it's not washed up, Sam.
It's not washed up. I'm not saying it's washed up. I'm not saying it's washed up.
Mark is never somebody to throw, just like Donald. You just don't throw out Mr. DeVitt.
Of course not. I would never. But my point was more, it's not the darling of the field as it once was, maybe.
No. It did lack, I remember a fight, I can't remember who it was. It was back in the early, maybe it might have been an ABC fight where they lost the ability to spin, but ICEWave abused whoever it was as a little wedge bot, just drove it around and was so fast and so dominant. And I haven't seen the base of ICEWave act that way in a while since. And I mean, but these robots are complex. There's a lot. Every little change throws everything else off in a different direction.
I think even if Mark changed the style of the weapon because obviously it's a combustion engine, it would make it a lesser machine because it takes away that personality. Exactly.
It'd just be Wave.
It'd be Wave. It'd be a lesser robot. I feel like without the chugging sound of the internal combustion engine, and I'm so happy that it's worked out for him this year. He had a tough time in Vegas. The last time at Remars, he had a tough time in Bounties where it just did not work at all. Right. Skorpios bullied him. It's just great to see ICEWave do its thing again, basically.
Yeah.
And as they said, they put a post up of what damage they took in the last fight. And the piece that got damaged, the piece of their motor that got damaged, it's the first time they've ever seen that piece get any damage. So it doesn't happen regularly. And fingers crossed can do the business. It has got quite a tough first match.
It does, yeah. It does have.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll get to that when we get to that.
Okay.
One of the things I love about ICEWave, and it's a very subtle, simple thing, and people sort of discount it, but actually it's a big deal with fighting good drivers, is the black tips.
Yes.
They just disappear when it's spinning. You cannot you think that the weapon
makes an Alaska native very mad.
You you think that the weapon is the yellow bar. You don't realize there's another 6 inches of radius beyond that. So when you go approach what you believe is your safe distance to be away from the spinning weapon isn't registering. And that's one of the most amazing things, is sort of it lulls people into this security that, oh, I can get this close, and no, you can't, because you just can't see that end. And that's a brilliant, just subtle little thing that's just done with paint, yet it really is effective.
Absolutely. It is good. And I think, as I said already, it's just wonderful to have it back and doing its thing, because it was missed. It was missed.
Yeah.
C29, HiJinx.
Struggling.
A slow start, much better against Sub-Zero.
Hard things.
Much better
They're
against
on
Sub-Zero.
an upward trajectory now, I think.
I agree. Ultimately, a very similar style of weapon. Big horizontal spinner, obviously undercutter. My one thing with HiJinx maybe is, first of all, its opponent is SawBlaze. That's just a rough draw in itself.
Awful.
But the other thing is,
I would never want to even fight SawBlaze.
No.
Yeah.
The other thing is, ultimately this season they've hit hard when they've been working. It's just it's almost flattered to deceive a little bit. There's been a little bit I've kind of thought, I wish it was just drive at them a little bit more.
Where it doesn't flatter to deceive for me, is when it's getting its spin up and they're in close proximity to another robot. To get their spin up, they've got enough torque in the weapon just to push the opponent away to get spun up. That's where it started to show me, okay, this thing's got some real power. And it could take some names. As Jen said after the first fight, when the wheel came off, it will never happen again.
No.
And it hasn't.
Yeah.
Right.
True to her word. I also think this is actually a tougher matchup for SawBlaze than we may be giving credit for, because there's a lot of space for SawBlaze to miss with the weapon.
Yeah, it's
a weird design.
Yeah, the trick is now for HiJinx is getting spun up quick and mobility, which they haven't proved to me, is being able to translate well across the arena. The last fight they really was an improvement. Their final fight of the season was a huge improvement, but it's still I'm still cagey on it, where it's like I want to back it, because how could you not back a huge, largest undercutter bar I've ever seen, and it just
and it's so pretty.
It's all weapon. And you want it to do well. I want it to do well. I just don't know with how aggressive JMO drives. I mean, we'll get to him when we get to him, but it's just a tough draw.
At the very least, they may get a bit more of a fight than they did in last year's bracket, where they were out in seconds.
Oh, Uppercut. God bless.
That's the sneeze guards.
Yes, absolutely. HiJinx for me, it's. I can't remember who it was. It was Hal last week and a bit ago, where he said, to us, he said that it's improving with every fight. Every time there's a failure or an area of weakness for HiJinx, it's not then there the next fight, or it's a little bit better. And they're very, Jen and Orion, Orion is so experienced. He knows exactly what he's doing. Jen obviously is kind of more recently come into combat robotics, but she's picked it up very quickly, and she's so clever. They're
very lessons learned mentality. Like, correct. As soon as a fight is over, it's like, well, what went right, what went wrong? Let's solve what went wrong and work on that. And they just go back to the pits and tear it down and start digging in and making sure that they won't have that same problem again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Bot 28.
We just talked to him.
We literally. So for the context
of
that
guy, what?
No, don't break the illusion.
No, I'm going to tell him. For the audience's perspective, we literally got off the phone to Jonathan half an hour ago, and now we're here with Pete.
That's why I'm eating my lunch now.
Exactly. Huge this season has, as we kind of alluded to with Jonathan, has just ramped up massively, and I'm so glad for that team that they've been able to show off what Huge is capable of.
Yeah, exactly.
Because last season, it was so frustrating with, obviously, we saw with the bike rack and then, other factors, the mammoth fight getting stuck in the wall.
Right.
And fighting Whiplash again for a second year in a row. Obviously, this year's draw is, again, pretty unkind, but you got to beat, a big name at some point.
And there definitely had to be a scare this year with their first fight with Riptide getting stuck outside the screw again.
Yeah.
Like getting stuck in a way where, like, even with the sneeze guards there, they still found a way to get stuck.
Yeah.
As we said in the last, just that UHMW going like that. And that won't happen with the Tegris.
That was the end of the UHMW wheels, it looks like. I think Tegris is their bread and butter now. We'll see.
There is a weight difference that the reason why they make choices based upon which blade they can go versus, like, because I think the Tegris is a little heavier, that they may not be able to choose which bar. I can't remember which direction it is, but they do have a, like, well, we really want to be hitting hard with this one, or we need the reach. So they may choose one wheel over the other, but I know the Tegris did a far superior job for them in survivability. But it was one of the problems I noticed is when they lost like just one chunk of rubber on the edge, there was some slippage. Like they were getting zero traction. So that's because maybe it's a little slippier. I don't know, but that's something that they may need to kind of think about how are they going to go forward with that to maintain always keeping traction. Because if they aren't, they're spinning and it looks like, oh, you're out of control. And it's like, well, actually, I'm not, it isn't that things aren't working. I'm just not biting into the ground enough to be able to drive.
It is the sort of cartoon legs thing of they're going around, but they're not getting anywhere.
I mean, we saw that exactly. In 2018, they had no rubber on their wheels, if I remember correctly. But at the time, they were geared so slowly. Like, I think it only did like 4 miles an hour or something crazy around the arena. It didn't really matter because they had all the grip they needed because they were moving so slowly.
Right.
Whereas now, you couldn't get away with that. It's not really viable anymore. You need to have a little bit of momentum behind you, and Huge has that. And the strategic options of having, the either the thicker wheels with the Tegris or, the UHMW, or indeed, the long or short bars. They've got so many strategic options.
And especially now with the chins as well
as we saw last week.
Impacts.
As we saw last week against Switchback. Potential. I think, Huge got a good chance against, well, I think they've got a chance against Uppercut, which, is saying quite a lot about the standard of their robot, whereas, most...
The thing with Uppercut is that the controllability of that machine is at times questionable.
Yeah. Yes.
It is just so
two-wheel drive.
Gyro.
Yeah.
And also due to whatever, once you start spinning this high RPM as Uppercut starts hitting, that you start to get so much gyro effect of getting the bot to actually sit on its wheels and perform, that's the tough one.
Correct. I think Huge has a better chance than most would against Uppercut, which says quite a lot about the standard of Huge rather than anything else.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 27, Captain Shrederator.
This has been a long time coming, I think.
Yeah.
It's been a long road back to a round of 32 for Captain Shrederator.
It's the first time since 2016.
Yeah, when it was just round of 32, or it wasn't actually.
Yeah, it was at a qualifier against Death Roll, didn't it?
Yeah.
He's been, there's been so many things, just little gremlins that have plagued him over the seasons, and it might also be his own fault for just not being as diligent as he might have needed to be in the pits. There was a time when last season, was it last season? Or maybe it was it might have been last season. I think where Matt Maxim came in and was helping out on Gigabyte. And the two tables were pit next to each other, and Matt's pit etiquette, shall we say, for the right terms, like how he deals with when the bot comes back, what happens within the pit. He's sort of like, if you saw Gigabyte last season, like all of a sudden was like, whoa, they're coming out of where they've been. Like they've been down kind of in a hole, and now they're really showing themselves. And it was really due to sort of some of Matt's, like how you work yourself in the pit. And Shrederator being right next to them was sort of starting to mimic that. And there was like, when the robot comes back, open it up, vacuum it out. And things like that, like some of the little bugs that would happen to Shrederator is he would get some aluminum dust into a speed controller and it'd blow the controller, right? It was simple stuff that was usually about, how well did you take apart the robot and put it back together and check, okay, is this shaft still good? Whoa, look at that, put a ruler to it and it's sort of curved up, like, okay, maybe we need to swap that out. And it was just those kind of things. And I think they got better and better about when the bot comes back from the fight, let's tear it down. Let's really assess what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Not only does it mean that Shrederator was then having good fights, it means that it was putting on a really good showing for just everything. I mean, you look at the Rotator fight it had last year in Bounty. It was a phenomenal fight. Just the physics that were going on was incredible, and Shrederator kept spinning for 2 out of those 3 minutes, and then kept driving for the rest.
Right.
Yeah. And
here's round 2.
I was going to say it's going to fight Rotator again this week.
I'm looking forward to it. It's one of the fights that I'm looking forward to most in the bracket is this.
Definitely. I think it's a small thing. Like, I watch a lot of motorsports. I watch my Formula One, and basically, what one of the team principals has said in recent years is kind of like, you got to do all the small things right first before you can start progressing. And this is they've kind of basically done that with Captain Shrederator. Okay,
strange. They say the same thing in teaching as well.
Yeah. Start with the basics, and then the results will follow, and it has done clearly this year because Shrederator beat Tombstone. I mean, come on, who saw that coming?
No,
right.
Who saw that coming? Bot number 26, Valkyrie.
Yeah.
The king of the damage last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the
rightfully so.
Most destructive. That's the one.
Destructive, yes.
This season, okay, they've won 2 fights. The 2 fights they won were against, pardon my French, and Triple Crown. Which I mean, I could gush about Triple Crown all day, but
such a cool robot, just not fit for fighting.
No, Todd,
and I think he knew that.
He did. Like, he told me that it didn't matter. This was still a bucket list thing. He got to bring a robot to BattleBots that was so wacky and crazy, and hopefully it inspired people.
Yeah.
Like,
he is not a rookie. Why did that get through editing?
No, I know that. I mean, I've known Todd for a long time, and
one of the most decorated bot builders of the early millennium.
In the new version, or in the like ABC Discovery years, this was a new thing for him, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We've gotten way more television coverage than we've ever had back in the Comedy Central days. So this was kind of a bigger deal.
When's the next McDonald's toy run? Let's go.
Hexbug in the mud. McDonald's is my new friend. Valkyrie.
Let's talk about
Valkyrie.
Sorry.
It's intriguing because that first fight with P1, of course, is a good showing from both teams. P1, working really hard to beat Valkyrie, and Valkyrie did get some good hits off, and obviously since then it's had the 2 rookie machines. It's a very scary robot to have at C26 because if you're a big name, like towards the top end of the bracket, you're kind of thinking, I might get an easier fight, and then you get Valkyrie.
No, you're going to get Valkyrie.
So hard.
It's the thing with this year's field is that everybody is in their own right potentially a BattleBots champion, and so it's so much.
I look
harder.
at this whole bracket, and you could pick anybody. Really.
Thank you for saying that. That is one of the things that is like when people sort of talk about, it's like you do realize that every single one of these robots is fully capable of being a champion. Like there is,
they've got to have the right run, luck on their side, and be able to maintain it properly. But
that's a huge thing with BattleBots of past, where it's like, we're like when it was an open tournament, you're like, all right, how many robots with 4-wheel drive and silver box wedges are we gonna have? And like it's like, yes, they could probably make a push, but like, how many real contenders do we have here? I
mean, even when the show came back, I mean, you kind of looked at Tombstone and thought, okay, that's just like, because Ray had ran it for so many years, you kind of thought, okay, well, he's going to be up there, and then it was kind of like, well, who comes after that? And there wasn't really many. You always kind of look at Ray and thought, okay, well, Tombstone's going to be, radioactive. God bless.
It's gonna kill them all.
But you know what I mean.
Sweet revenge and radioactive. Yes.
Oh my god, we're talking some. I mean, what about what else was there? I mean, Cow Revolution.
Back to Valkyrie.
Back to Valkyrie.
Black Ice.
So
sorry.
Okay. Escape Velocity. Yeah. Okay. Valkyrie is one of those machines where, again, like, there's a field of now 32, which they could all win. Whereas, a few years ago there was like 3-4. You kind of thought, okay, we've got a serious chance of winning, whereas now it's everyone. And Valkyrie's one of those where you kind of think, hey, you know what, with a good run, absolutely, because they've shown, look at last year against a high seeding Rotator,
Yeah, I mean, that is still one of my all-time favorite fights. There are more sparks from just weapon contacts and from that fight, Rotator's Valkyrie. It was like one of my all-time favorite fights.
It is that fight that must have won him the most destructive, because
it was.
My God, it was broken to bits. It was in so many pieces.
They pulled the face off of Rotator. Yes.
Yeah, Rotator's a tough little bot.
It is. Yes. We'll get to them a bit later on. But Valkyrie is just... I mean, their opponent is Blip, which isn't really a robot that's kind to Valkyrie again. Like, obviously, Aaron and Team 3 have got that kind of amazing horseshoe wedge design down very nicely now.
Valkyrie does not like being upside down.
No.
I mean, there are times when that might work really well for a bot that has something a little tall, that if they're upside down, they could, like a hammer bot or something, where they would just reach perfectly into the pivot point of it. But they're, they don't like being upside down, especially against something as wedgy and snappy as Blip can be.
Absolutely. It's intriguing to see how it does. I'm sure Blip are kind of concerned about the damage they're going to take, but it's
going to be their first proper test, I think.
Yeah, it was probably going to be the edge or the corner by this. I mean, the corner's gone, right? Like your wedge gets pulled off.
You're in big trouble.
Valkyrie does a great job of grabbing and sort of pulling away and cutting things away from who it's fighting.
Exactly. Absolutely. Number 25, the return of Lucky. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to see Lucky performing well, because we mentioned in the last podcast when they fight with Mammoth, they kind of, I don't know if they lost their way a little bit, but like Ziggy won everything in the super heavyweights, and I know it's not the same robot, and I know that the field's very different, and I know it's no two things are the same, but you kind of think, well, something must be there, because you don't just become like cannon fodder, they weren't cannon fodder, that's the wrong word, but like you don't become a low-end bot overnight. There must be something in there, like it's not quite right, and they had a year off last year with COVID and everything else, and they've come back with a Lucky now, which is durable, it hits hard, it's flipping well, the driving from...
I was going to say, I think it comes down to that driver. He is superb. He can put Lucky wherever he wants.
That's a way to breathe life back into a team, is to get somebody who really knows how to use the sticks.
Yeah. And I think
one of the great things about sort of Lucky is it isn't always just a flipper. I mean, at times they can kind of punch with that. Like if the thing that they need to get to is a little tall, they'll just kind of like jab with that. And we saw that happening to Mammoth, right?
Yes.
After the flipper kind of broke off, they were just throwing punches straight on.
Well, I mean, shoot, before the flipper broke, they just punched a wheel off, because you can do that now. It's remarkable.
It's so nice to see like a machine that we've seen for a number of years kind of re-galvanize itself, similar to Shrederator in many ways. Like, there was clearly potential there. We saw that amazing fight with Beta, and there was something there, and you always kind of thought, when's it going to come good? When's it going to come good? And it now has, and they're in the round of 32, and they fully deserve it.
Yeah.
Only 6 years later, it's fine.
Well, 5 when it was
playing the long game.
5 when it was filmed. Yeah, to be fair.
It's one of the reasons why I never count anybody out for a bad season, or a bad 2 seasons even. Just because, if they got the pairing that just changed everything, or like this, they have a new driver who really can drive, and that's making a world of difference for them.
It really is. It really, really is. And it's exciting. Obviously, a tough challenge in Copperhead, which we'll get to a little bit later on, but you never know. You never know. Yeah. It's a kind of very contrasting styles of machines, so it could be an interesting test for both of them, I think. Number 24, way down. In fact, even lower than last year, which is amazing to consider, is Witch Doctor. They were 23 last year.
I feel like their strength of schedule... their strength of schedule hurts them a little bit.
Strength of schedule and the way in which they won their first fight, it was not a clear win. It was... I mean, it went to the judges, hence why it wasn't a clear win. But
good job, Jeff.
Yeah, it's struggled. I know what I'm talking about. I'm professional.
That's all good. Why we got you here.
Like me, I'm here to bring you unprofessional.
Excellent. That's what we want to see. I think as well, people... Again, this is another one of those robots like Valkyrie where it's so low down in the ceilings, you kind of think, that's a horrendous draw for a high seed. Like it was last year for Skorpios.
Or is it?
Well, that's...
they're still Witch Doctor, right?
That's true. They didn't stop being Witch Doctor overnight.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. It's still Mike driving that thing.
Yes.
I mean, it's just... it's the same sort of mentality of like, oh, wow, Tombstone lost a fight. Yeah. Oh, wow, Witch Doctor's got is lower down the bracket. That may not mean anything. Yeah.
You got to feel sorry for those sort of higher up in the rankings that are going to be facing them. It's a...
I mean, who are they? I don't have the...
They've got Glitch, which is... Glitch's trial by fire continues.
Yeah. that's a tough matchup. Like Glitch. Yeah. We'll talk about Glitch when we get to Glitch. There's some stuff that's amazing about Glitch that I want to sort of bring up. So
I've loved Glitch ever since I saw it for the first time, but we'll definitely gush there when we gush there because
I'm hopeful for Witch Doctor. I think we've not seen the best of this version yet.
Nope.
Oh
no, I don't think we have.
We've said it. It beat Rusty. Okay, we love Rusty to pieces, but it's Rusty.
It started strong against Endgame.
It did.
I've got to give it its credit. It started very strong against Endgame, and then Endgame.
Very reminiscent of its final against Bite Force. Yeah, where it had the beginning of the fight, and all of a sudden it all went to. And
it was because of the tree mech. It hit the tree mech chain and curtains.
Eerily similar, wasn't it? Really. Mm-hmm. Eerily similar. Well, we've talked about it quite a lot. 23 is Tombstone, an all-new Tombstone, which has had a lot of teething issues.
Yes.
But you just know that Ray's going to turn it on now.
He's been playing for the playoffs. It's just like, it's a team. It's just like they know they're going to make it.
I think he quite likes going in at sort of either mid to low tier, so he can just get a seemingly smooth run up to the.
All he's got to do is win his first fight and beat a high seed, and then he's got a nice ride through the tournament. Yeah. Maybe you never know.
Good point. Very valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is with Ray, he knows how to win. He's done it he's done it endlessly for years.
He does.
He's done it for years. He's done it, with Last Rites for God knows how many years. He's done it with Tombstone in BattleBots in the past. He got to the top 4 merely 2 seasons ago. Yeah. Like, come on. He can't say he's washed up because it's an all-new robot.
He's never washed up.
Hell no.
Tombstone is never washed up.
Yeah. So easy to say that behind a screen and keyboard.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we spoke with Ray last season, and he always goes in, he wouldn't come back if he didn't think he would win. And that's his kind of mantra. And, the same applies here. It's a new robot. It's had some teething issues, admittedly, but you can't rule out Ray and Tombstone.
It is going to be a tough match, I think. The home team are really going to bring it to him. I'm hoping that they've sharpened the Heartbreaker.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because that second fight with Jackpot, and I mean, oh boy. Oh.
Yeah, we'll get to Jackpot a little bit as well.
Prove that they could take a hit and dish one too. So
yeah,
definitely.
But Ray's gonna have a good one on his first fight. Maybe he'll get an upset. Maybe he won't. Maybe he. The
thing is, he's now had the
brand
time
new
to
Tombstone.
Dial it in and work out the bugs.
And say this season doesn't work out the way he wants it to. It's a brand new Tombstone. He just got a chance to really test it, like test it to kind of like stretch it out a little bit. He comes back next year.
2022.
Oh my goodness! Don't even get me started. So
it's an ominous thought, isn't it? It's an ominous thought, isn't it? Really, for fans of people who like to wind Ray up, I think.
I don't think it ever winds Ray up.
I think he enjoys it. He enjoys it.
Oh, yeah. He totally he just laughs at them because it's like, go ahead. You gonna step in the arena with it?
Right.
Have fun with that. Let's see how that works out. Bring it on. Yeah.
Rank 22 is Steve's pick for the season.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
This is what you're going for, huh?
This is what I was going for before I saw their first fight. And then I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
To be fair, their first fight was against Uppercut, and that's always tough.
Their first fight was against Uppercut and the box itself, where they just got cornered in. There was just no chance.
So the short corners and tough.
So many opportunities to escape and none taken.
No. I'll say they had the chance to at one point. I think
they had Uppercut boxed
in themselves,
where they could have driven backwards instead and got spun up.
I mean, the box at the time in the box, I'm sure is a blur. I mean, like you can see it from the outside looking in, but when you're the one holding the controller, it's a whole different world.
I mean, that's the thing that going to the out of the arenas, and let's take like SawBlaze Endgame, right? Yes. I mean, people could say, "Oh, look at that! They actually launched them right out of the arena, like they were aiming for
so impressive."
It doesn't happen that way. It's Endgame SawBlaze turned, and Endgame went, "Oh my God, that's the back of SawBlaze," and just drove forward.
Mine.
And next thing you know, it was like we're driving
all over their faces.
Like,
yes.
Oh, we're at the edge, and we just launched them out of the arena.
Yeah.
It wasn't expected. That was not a planned move, right?
No. I mean, shoot, they wanted to start the fight over again if they could. That wasn't what that was. We spent all this time getting set up in the box. You're just going to have this little bit. Come on.
I will bring it back to Gigabyte quickly.
Yes. Sorry.
No. I'm all for segues.
Yes.
Gigabyte.
With Gigabyte, it's been tough. It's been tough for them.
Yeah.
Just overall.
the short corners are very hard on a full body spinner. Like those little areas can trap you if you don't have the bot that allows you to always know your front right off the bat and have really good control of how do I get myself out of this. Because, they have to sort of like think about that thing and like, which way is back, and how do I get myself out of here? And it was tough. They could never really get a good spin up once they would get in there. And you don't want to, because if you got tapped, you're just going to bounce around.
Pinging around the walls. Yeah. We've seen it before when it fought Hydra last year, and it still did it then when there's that one amazing hit where it kind of flings in the air and then goes straight across the arena. And
I've talked about it quite often about, when people ask me about the meta and vertical spinners and horizontal spinners, and, Sir Isaac Newton is a vertical's friend, right? Because they're spinning upwards, they make contact, equal and opposite reaction goes through their frame into the floor. Gigabyte, Tombstone, it's the thing that's fighting the equal and opposite reaction is the traction of the wheels.
Build a wall.
Once that's broken,
that you can hit against.
You're gone, right?
Yeah.
So physics they're always fighting physics. I mean, not as hard as a poor hammer does, but Gigabyte is always fighting physics whenever they make contact. And so it's a tough thing for them, especially in a short corner, to get themselves out and deal with.
I was so
biggest
hype
thing
on them.
for Gigabyte for me is the fact that they've had some really questionable data for this season. Like they've had a fight against Smee, which you can never predict how that's going to go because Smee is such a wacky thing to fight, and especially in that setup where it was just one piece and it was
one big
off of the
spring.
front going, what is going on? Why am I not doing anything?
Why is AR flexing like that?
Yeah, literally.
Because that's what it does on that length and scale.
Yeah.
It turns into a big spring.
Silly.
And then they had a fight against Shrederator that was over in seconds.
Yeah.
So it's not. They've not really had all the testing they would like.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It was like a real Beyblades fight because they're often over very quickly.
Yeah. Jury's still out on Gigabyte. I think who are they fighting? It's Tantrum, isn't it? They've got.
It
is
Tantrum. That is an
They can
awful
still.
draw.
I mean, Gigabyte. It's not that Gigabyte doesn't hit hard. Oh my god! I mean, that's part of their problem. Is they hit so hard that then they have to absorb that hit back through their own system.
Exactly.
And so that is one of the rougher things.
Definitely.
They had such a good season last year, in my opinion. They made the 16.
They had a great season.
And it was just everything was looking up, and I was hype. And John,
so what are you telling me?
Make me a believer.
Have you lost hope? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm nervous.
He's not lost hope. He's nervous. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
nervous.
He can be nervous, but he hasn't lost hope.
No,
He
of course not. I posted on Twitter. It's still my pick to win. I mean, when I have my bracket completely completed when we submit it, it may be another robot because I'm a little behind in our points. I want to get up in our. we do like a predictions pool of all of us, and I'm still kind of fighting upwards. So if I want a perfect bracket, I gotta maybe break some hearts. So myself included. So we will see.
We will see. 21 is another rookie in Riptide.
Yeah.
This thing hits hard.
It does enough, doesn't it?
Really
even to itself. I mean, we saw it do a triple somersault onto the deck. It's unbelievably good.
It's one of the biggest hits of the season, and it's because of the floor.
Yeah,
it's been like our Railgun Max of the season, where we have this big egg beater that can dish out hits. It's and it's even got little lifty arms that it can choose whether or not it wants them to use them or not.
We've not seen them yet.
Yeah.
We spoke with Hal Rucker about his fight with Riptide and kind of the way that it was. He described it was like it was just eating his frame, like which is amazing to consider because Duck is just so
rock solid.
Yeah,
a true brick of all bots is Duck, right? And and Riptide was just taking it apart piece by piece. Yeah,
it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And Riptide, again, I still feel like we haven't seen the best of it. Which is a scary thought because it's been really good.
Yeah, because its fights have been amazing for it, right? It's done so well. So,
aside from the time it tried to eat the shelf, upside down.
No one's perfect, right? No one's perfect.
And the fact it carried on after that hit, just goes to show how good and how
Yeah, because it went.
That spinner is.
I mean, it launched at least
so
like
high.
6 feet up, right? 6 to 8 feet, and
It
then
was easily
landed.
in the fourth panel. Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff. Interested to see how they got on against Shatter in their match.
Yeah, I don't envy them.
It's another billet.
Yeah,
It is another
billet on billet action.
Ooh. Number 20. Rejoice! Justice!
Justice!
At last! Oh dear me. Well, that's basically season over because P1's in the bracket now.
Yeah,
That's all that matters.
So we also do in the past, we've been very open about doing a bingo tournament among some of the YouTubers. We've done sort of underground one this year, so we've been doing it, but it's just not been broadcast this year. And the number of squares that just say P1 makes the bracket, I've crossed off so many. Just going, yep, here we go.
But like, all jokes aside,
it deserves
I was going to say, like, I know that for a fact because we spoke to Brandon and Anthony from the team this season, and they said, they had a lot of conversations with yourself, Pete, and obviously Greg and Trey, and, a lot of, high-end production people saying, look, what do we need to do to convince you?
What are we doing wrong? What needs to be better?
And they've done it. They've absolutely done
it. And it wasn't just in an engineering form. Mm-hmm. It was, what do I need to do to make myself a better captain, a better robot? Like, what do I change in this bot that then makes it more winnable kind of thing? So he spent a lot of time in the off season working this thing out. Lots of little subtleties, stuff like the spoiler no longer is there, but there's a great little lip on the back that is just this piece of UHMW or Delrin that allows another robot to not catch the wheels and slides off the back. Like, there was just these great little subtleties that
nice quality of life changes where this is what it needed to evolve into be a true contender. And of course, everyone loves a little Gulf livery. I mean, it's just beautiful. So
hold that thought.
Oh interlude.
Yeah. It's a good job we're showing video this year because we get some real
always.
This is true.
Always been a fan.
Oh, very nice.
I see yours and I raise you.
There we go.
It was like it was meant to be.
Between that color and the Lancia Stratos from the back of the day,
the martini stripes.
Yeah.
Yes, those two are like my favorite looks of a car. So
I think we teased him when he was on. It was like, you should go because of the whole like race hell praise Dale thing. I'm like, you should do like one of the Earnhardt schemes, just as an alternate. I don't know.
We've said Ribbot to change its skin a few times. Why not P1?
Yeah, exactly. We saw Ribbot completely be camouflage itself.
Well, we found out why, because it's not marketable.
Ding.
There you go. P1. Tough challenge against Jevon, your pick for the series, Hypershock, but we'll get to that a bit later on.
It's such a shame that I have to go against P1 because...
Well, this is the fight that everyone wanted to happen last year,
Yes.
Obviously, Hypershock was seed 32, and everyone was upset that P1 didn't get in.
It should have been P1.
Right.
But now they proved themselves.
And now we're going to see what would have happened, potentially.
Yeah,
Who knows?
He had such a great fight against Valkyrie. Like, he
really... So well controlled.
Really took it home. I mean, that's kind of the fight that really defined this, right? Was... how good he fought against Valkyrie.
I mean, even the Ribbot fight, he held them off for the longest time, just kept the frog at bay. And Ribbot couldn't find them for the longest time.
No. No, they couldn't.
It's funny because I think Chris says, like, in the playback, or maybe it was Ribbot found an opening. When he caught the front end, and I corrected on Twitter. I said, I think you mean Ribbot created an opening. The whole front end opened up.
He made the front end a little even more open.
Yeah, because they already had the opening, didn't they, for that fight?
Yeah, but that was working so well. That split in the middle made it so that Ribbot just couldn't grab anything.
Yeah,
and every time they went head on.
It was a risky play, but it worked out in the end.
Because it was like, like your hinge point's like right there. You're like, it's just so tantalizing. Like right there, you want to be able to hit it, but nope.
Do they run with it again against Hypershock?
I mean,
it must be tempting for them.
Against Ribbot.
Shall we?
It must be tempting for them, surely.
Definitely.
It's a plan that worked out for the most part of that fight.
Definitely.
Like, do you give them something that they can bite? Because Hypershock's proved that we can. They can.
Oh, they'll take a bite.
We will see. We will see.
Yeah, we will indeed. Number 19.
All hail the king.
Well, now I want to go back to episode 1 of this season.
Lil Yeti.
And to quote a Mr. Peter Abrahamson, I predict Yeti to have a very deep run in this competition.
Oh, wait, I've got a little side note, Facebook note, of course.
Okay.
some troll on Facebook had like every time, I always do my good deed of social media posting of here's the fight card, here's the main event kind of things, and dump that onto the Bot Whisperer page, right? Some guy always would drop in the comments, Yeti's going deep! Exclamation point, right? Like, just because they lost that first fight. And here they are in the bracket after 2 pretty decent wins. It's like, I wonder, what knowledge did I have? Oh,
it's
Christian
funny.
And Greg. Like, why not didn't go deep?
It's funny. We when we saw that first fight, I think we had to kind of reassess it because we looked at Yeti and kind of thought, okay, Yeti seemed a bit cumbersome at the start.
Yeah.
And I think we have to reassess and think, okay, one, Mad Catter is really, really good. And two, I think Greg and Christian, I think it's fair to say they were a little bit rusty themselves going back in. But
both been out of the game for a good few years now.
Exactly.
And coming back in.
And also had worked together. Like,
it's an all-new style of robot as well.
It was a completely brand new bot. It was not old Yeti. It was a complete build, sort of redesigned by Christian to kind of cram as much as he could into that tight little space that equals Yeti.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of growing pains on this edition of Yeti.
It really does look like it comes from the Cool Robots ecosystem. It really has that look and feel.
Minion
vibes. And
but still has the DNA of Yeti in it.
Yes,
on a
or
profile.
Like Christian's old robot Onslaught, with the big fire rescue saws on the rear, the big super heavyweight he had.
Definitely. I love this version of Yeti. Like it's just I'm a big convert because at the start, like at first fight, I was like, oh god, like I'm so disappointed because I was excited to see Yeti back.
Yeah,
and it was so disappointing. But
first matchup.
I was going to say, as it turns out, it's because Mad Catter's really, really good,
really nasty this year.
Yeah,
evil,
and
just plain bonkers.
Yeah, just plain crazy. As for Yeti,
the driving of Yeti
I was gonna say,
in the last fight was
Skorpios.
So good. There were parts of it where I was just staring. I got really close to my laptop screen when I was watching it. I was just like, oh my god, that was such a good driving move. It's just like the way that they turn and straight back in is like,
Even against Pain Train, like, at the start, Pain Train started off quite strongly, and I was like, oh no, here we go again, sort of thing. And then it just suddenly, primal Greg Gibson from out of nowhere.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Just pulling it apart. It was amazing.
Smash.
Yeah, literally. It was so good. And I think, again, the bracket is a better place for having Yeti in it.
Yeah. Yes. I agree. And like we said
middle
earlier,
of the pack.
Any one of these bots could go, right?
Exactly.
And the fight they've got could go either way. Honestly.
We'll get to that because I've got some stuff to say about their opponent, Cobalt. Number 18, though, in the meantime, Black Dragon.
There's another, I
know.
Down at 18, right? Like, come on.
Even the further we get up these numbers, like the further we get close to the obvious number one,
right?
It just gets even more and more like, oh my, they could make a deep run. They could make a deep run.
Black Dragon got to 3rd or 4th last year?
Yep, top 4.
Yeah,
we don't do playoffs here, Jevin. It's just
who's
straight
the
knockout.
Other? Ribbot. No, it beat Ribbot.
Tantrum.
Tantrum, that was it. I'd rather Tantrum go further, but hey, we'll say number 4 then for Black Dragon.
Sorry,
Brazil. Apologies to Brazil. Black Dragon made a really, really deep run last year, but this year I feel I'm okay with the number 18 seeding for it. It makes sense because at times this season, because the caliber of bot has been so phenomenal throughout the season, I've just forgotten they were here. And until they rock up and beat another thing, I was like, "Oh yeah, Black Dragon's here this year."
They're still punching. They're still punching up their weight. It's all good.
I forgot they were there.
Yeah, sneaking up behind you like he's behind me, isn't he? Such like that.
I think again with their one loss that they had, I think it's more of a compliment to Victor and Rotator rather than a slight on Black Dragon because I think that fight was just expert.
Well, that was a driving masterclass. I mean,
when we get to Rotator, we could talk about it. Victor is, you just said getting up real close and watching watching Victor fight. Every move is completely deliberate.
He's a master tactician.
I was watching some feeds of whether it was Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and some people were saying he he hasn't done much of anything. And it's like, you do realize that every single one of those moves was exactly placed where he's supposed to put it, right? It wasn't about he was going too slow. He intentionally went at the speed he needed to be able to turn right into the other bot and knock them away. Like it.
Incredible. Rotator is a robot this year that I really hope makes a really deep run. It deserves it after all these years.
And we'll talk more once we get to it.
Yeah, definitely.
When we get to its fight against.
To talk about Black Dragon quickly. They're in a really difficult. I mean, again, there's no easy fight, but their first match, we talked about it quite a lot, is Mad Catter, and that is
their quarter of the bracket's kind of dangerous. Honestly,
there's a lot of big hisses in there, and I think
let me bring that up so I can actually see where we are in that corner of the bracket.
So we've got Ribbot on
good God,
Hydra defender, Blip or Valkyrie, Jackpot or Tombstone. It's just like,
ouch.
It's messy up there, isn't it? Yeah. Considering how things went last season for them against Ribbot, it would be cool to see them fight again. But I feel like they've got a really tough opponent in Mad Cat, who we'll get to very shortly. But
that quarter is basically, I mean, it's either that one or Endgame's quarter, which is kind of group of death.
I think so.
I would not want to be in any quarter.
No, definitely not.
They're all groups of death in my mind.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's move over to the Endgame group. And number 17 is Bloodsport, which again, a very low ceiling for someone who was top 2 last year.
Number 2.
Yeah.
And have been doing pretty amazing. Like, just
the only losses to Whiplash.
Until last year, Tantrum broke their heart again. There's Aaron again. messing with the brackets again. But yeah, they had a good they've had a good year. It's and that last fight, oh man, that last fight in this most recent episode with freaking Claw Viper. Wonderful. Just a wonderful fight. It was beautiful.
I mean,
and
Kevin losing all of the weaponry, and yet he hit. Like, I thought there might have been an out of the arena coming with that one.
We discussed this last episode.
Yeah.
It, like one 6-inch piece of metal
in a world where BattleBots has the rule where if something touches the out of the zone, you're done. That's it. It's possible that self-rotor pull, but
yeah.
Oh man.
That was amazing.
It's a spectacular fight. And Bloodsport as well, like they showed in that fight, as we kind of alluded to in the last episode, like the fact that their weapon kept running for 3 minutes, it is a rarity for them.
Yeah.
And it makes them even more dangerous.
Weapon reliability after their first loss. It was such a bizarre little thing that went wrong for Bloodsport after their first loss, or that caused their first loss even, that just like one little protective piece of heat conducting metal or something like that just got it all overheated and one of the speed controllers went a bit toasty. It's just
as they do.
Yeah, it do be like that.
Like my bagel this morning. Yes, a bit toasty.
So to come away from that and then have 2 storming fights, it's been
definitely.
I will say I do worry about them being shunted by things. I don't know if this fight coming up they'll have to worry about that as much, but Claw Viper has definitely shown that there is a way to fight Bloodsport. So it's
Bloodsport may well need to make sure they've got their parachutes packed tight.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's get to their opponent, shall we? Now, if I cast my mind back to last year, when we spoke to you, Pete, there was one robot that you were very disappointed. Well, not disappointed, but were gutted that couldn't come because of COVID. And the one robot we talked about was Minotaur,
former runner-up,
and it's just one of those teams where the field isn't complete without it, right?
No, it is not. Mm-hmm. I love watching Minotaur fight, even in a devastating loss like SawBlaze fight,
oh my God.
Right? Which was just a fabulous fight, anyways.
Yeah.
But like you can never count that bot out. This thing is so small and compact.
It keeps moving.
Yes.
Powered by hopes and dreams. Part of me, like, I'm not normally biased. I feel like I'm quite objective when it comes to, who I want to win in any fight. Yeah. Part of me really wants Minotaur to really go far and, hopefully take it home this year. Because
especially after that package
VT.
that was for Daniel. It's you could throw all predictions out the window. This is the one that no one would be upset if it made it all the way and won the whole thing. It'd be the people's champion. It'd be the people's champion. Yeah.
Definitely.
I was sort of 2018 where it got to the semi-final, not semi-final, it got the way to the grand final, didn't it? My brain does a weird thing where if you are then sort of one of the top ranked machines, instantly want you to lose everything because I always go for the underdog.
You'd be like, oh yeah, let someone else have fun up there.
Yeah, 2019 I was always sort of rooting against Minotaur. They didn't come in 2020. I was like, oh, good, a break. And then seeing them come back for the 2021 season, I was like, oh, I missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it wasn't
a little
there.
bit of distance makes the heart grow fonder in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
I mean, there are two drum bots in this whole field that just rock. Copperhead and Minotaur, right? These are the two of the most fun drum bots to watch.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And Minotaur, it's again, we can never count it out because Daniel will drive the wheels off it, and even when the wheel comes off, he probably just keep driving it and keep sending it because he's just that guy. He is.
Find the balance of gyro that just keeps him straight somehow.
Yeah, he will, and he has done over the years. And the fight with Bloodsport is one thing. Obviously, a victory there and a potential fight with Endgame, a rematch with Endgame.
That's an exciting thought, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good prospect for
potential Endgame.
The bracket gods have blessed us with a possibility, so let's see. We'll see. I mean, of course, I don't know what'll happen. That's what's fun about this time of year.
Nobody knows.
I know, but I won't tell you.
It's interesting though. So Endgame coming in as number 1 seed and last year's champion is potentially going to face off against a machine that beat it previously. So.
We'll see.
That's what's fun about the show being around for a while. You have these stories that generate, and there's more history and,
It builds and it builds and it builds, and definitely.
That's what you get in most sports, like you build rivalries, you build connections between teams. Like, this team has fought this one a bunch of times. Oh, they had a team member that was him, so they might have intel, about how that robot works. It's like stuff like that. I love stuff like that. I could just dig myself into that.
Steve, calm down.
We're only halfway through. We're only halfway through.
Get a paper bag.
Number 15.
Yes.
We've talked about it a lot. Mad Catter. What a leap forward.
Crazy. Martin and team have been just pummeling out there. They have been doing great. It's been really nice to see Mad Catter show what it can really do.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Only the one lost to SawBlaze, no disgrace there. It was an amazing fight regardless. And we've seen it give out some monster hits to Yeti and of course poor Rampage last week. And as well as that, I'm a big fan, Calvin Iber, the driver, he's unbelievably good. If you watch Norwalk Havoc out there, you'll see him latter stage of that bracket every single time with his Beetleweight links. And he said at the start of the season, I want a heavyweight that drives like my Beetle, and it's getting there, and that's a potentially terrifying prospect for everyone.
And they also all the weapons, the different discs. They have a huge variety of weights and reaches and styles of what they're going to hit with. So they very carefully choose which blade they're putting on based upon their opponent. Yeah. There's a lot of sort of thought put into why would we go with French fry versus, whichever one. Yeah. All of them were kind of crazy fast food names. I can't remember.
Right. And there's a really interesting matchup of interchangeability with this fight coming up against Black Dragon, where Black Dragon and Mad Catter they have so many different front ends they could throw on the front of these things. So I'm sure this was a nightmare trying to get them to pick a configuration, where in the end, one's going to have an advantage over the other in a way. Right. You got to lock it in. But man, this is a tough one because really either bot could take this one, and it's either one are probably going to have to, unless there's a huge upset, most likely fighting Ribbot. So it's
again another rematch.
It's going to be hard. Yeah, another rematch. Yes,
for either or. Exciting times, certainly. Number 14. Now,
all right, go Sam.
I've filled out my bracket.
Yeah.
I don't have Cobalt winning it, but I have Cobalt in the top 4.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
I don't know what it is, but after that first fight with Fusion, Matt clearly, we spoke with Craig Danby, who basically said after that fight, he said, he was so annoyed. He went to the welding bench, and basically he was just fully annoyed with himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he took that loss very personally, and since then it's been flawless from Cobalt. and it's such a dangerous robot.
Oh God, that weapon. I don't think we've shown it yet. Maybe it's going to come in their episode in 32. I discussed this specific weapon at one point. Matt and I had a nice little interview discussing why that weapon does what it does and how that tooth design is set up to sort of catch another robot and get them lifted and starting to bounce when the big tooth comes and hits them. So there's a nice piece. Hopefully it made the show. We'll see. Don't know.
If not, I'm sure it'll be seen on Facebook at some point.
Yeah,
exactly. Somewhere on the tubes of you.
Yeah, we do have a fascination with this particular weapon. It may or may have not made the logo.
Yes, that was the direct inspiration for our logo. I just love Cobalt, and again, it's another one of those where obviously Dave and Sam weren't able to come along this time around because they were busy, having children, and it's true. That's what happened. Having each other. Well, and then you got
make that clear.
And then you got Matt Maxim, who of course who's kind of, as you said, was kind of on the Gigabyte team last season, but has not piloted a machine himself since 2016 as well.
I'm concerned that Matt Maxim is making a transition to spinners, and that's a very scary.
That is a very scary thought.
It is. Yeah. It really is.
We'll see. That's done some nice damage. That
maybe
a little more.
When that explosion happened in front of him in the driver's bay.
He just doesn't flinch. He's just like, good.
Yeah. We've seen some reactions from a lot of people. What was your reaction, Pete, when you saw Ghost Raptor just fall apart?
It was amazing, at the same time heart-wrenching. I've known Chuck for a long time, and to witness a bot that I've known for so long just
collapse,
turn into 3 different complete pieces, all held together by wires, was... it's just like those moments of these things are really, really dangerous, aren't they? Like, thank God, like you want to go knock on the Lexan because you go, yes, there's a reason why that's that thick and it's front of me because of that. It was amazing.
It was unbelievable. Definitely.
Yeah, but this is a robot that technically could get a triple crown. Where we won in China, we had a bot that won in the UK.
That's right.
There is a little bit of a pedigree, and
got
like
something to gain
family
from
tree
it.
there.
Certainly got something to gain from going all the way.
Definitely.
Carbide, tungsten, and maybe cobalt.
Who knows?
They sure do love their periodic table metals.
Yeah,
and that's why
I still think the next robot should be called Tin.
Well, that's why the Lego Wars one's called Tin.
You don't usually machine with tin. I mean,
no.
They use tin in
it's alloying
coatings that go on the end of your end mills, but that's why they choose cobalt and carbide.
Of course.
Scary.
Number 13, Jevon, your pick for the season.
I choose you, Hypershock.
How confident are we feeling going into the 32?
Do you know what? I've looked at the bracket and I've gone full send. I've sent it all the way to the championship.
To send cut send? You send it?
Yeah. Send cut send. Nice.
This podcast is not sponsored by Send Cut Send.
But that robot was.
If you want to, come and talk to us.
Yeah, please. I would love it. Yes, please do. Hypershock.
Yeah, this
conversation
is,
for a future time.
Hypershock has been doing very, very nicely. Yeah. Not a top 10 seed though, so we will not see dyed hair.
No.
A big shame.
We did speak to him earlier this year, and he said, "Well, it was 2 haircuts ago, so you never know." As it turned out, didn't even matter.
Good point.
Yeah.
It's not the edit that I made and said if they make top 10 seed, you can film me dying and just cut it there.
Oh dear! It's like
I'm pleased he's alive. All is good. All is good.
Definitely. It's been a big step forward for Hypershock this year. The preparedness of the team has been very
even numbered years. It's just even numbered years.
The theory continues.
Even though he still brought it all out of suitcases,
yes.
At the very last minute, put it together there. He was putting together a very nice model kit. Like everything fit exactly the way it was, and went together really well. Like
it was ready to go.
Just like he was saying when he was on a few weeks back now that because their fights went well, they actually had time to build the second one for the first time.
I know, it was crazy.
Shock horror.
Which bodes well for the tournament bracket, hence why I've had it making a very deep run indeed.
Yeah.
I just have to tell you guys, he let me drive it in the safety box, in the test box. It was exquisite.
Yeah.
So,
like a fine
it would
wine.
be like somebody gives you the keys to a vintage GT40 and says, "Oh, here you are. Go race this around the Nürburgring." Really? I get to do that? That's what this was. So tight and so like all I wanted was acres to be able to drive it on because it was so responsive and I just wanted to let it out because it was great. Like it was really fun. And it was a testament to what they've been doing. Like it shows how good they designed that thing to be that tight and that responsive and that controllable so that they can actually aim it and put it in places.
They've cut out all of the bits that suck. So the Shremek when they've made it slightly
trim all the fat.
It's just
if you put it on a scale, the amount of suck versus less suck, there was a lot less suck than there was suck.
And that's exactly what Will wants.
Yeah,
that's
and that's why he sells.
That's the recipe for success.
That's why he sells the T-shirts with suck less on it.
Not sponsored by Hypershock Shop, but if you want to, I'll always wear your merch.
I will say that their matchups coming up are quite interesting. Like they have the fight against P1.
It's going to be a tough run,
and then possibly SawBlaze,
or HiJinx,
and then possibly Uppercut or Huge or who knows will come out of that bottom the bottom four in that quarter.
Yeah,
I mean, shoot, you could even see HiJinx. Like it's definitely a scary ask to go through that deep in the tournament. But I'm glad you're confident, Jevin. Because I would be shaking in my boots.
It could well be misguided, but I have faith that we can go a few more fights with this.
Is it faith or is it delusion? We'll never know.
it would be strange if Hypershock's #1 fan didn't go full send. So there you go.
I didn't last year because it was an odd year. It's an even year this year.
Makes sense.
Let's go.
Makes sense.
All I want
their fights against P1, correct?
Yeah.
It is.
Who are they fighting? Yeah. Okay.
Driving match.
Yes,
toy car versus race car.
Yeah,
it should be good fun. I'm looking forward to that one. Definitely,
that is going to be a fun fight.
Yeah. Number 12 is my favourite BattleBot of all, Shatter. Tough match they've got against Riptide. I think it doesn't really favour them that well. Although,
especially as their big weapon is now sort of that shape.
Well, the only thing I was gonna say is they have had a habit this year of sniping things. Shatter, and they got Sub-Zero's lipos, and
they are known for it.
Yeah, and they got
knockoff white.
Yeah, exactly. They got Blacksmith's belts as well.
Yeah,
Shatter is just a joy to watch, isn't it?
So the Mary Special, which is what's on there in this shot, that tooth profile is very specific to taking out belts and chains. The whole point of it is to not try to pierce armor, but to catch pulleys and to destroy a belt or a chain.
Yeah.
And like you said, the fight versus Blacksmith is exactly what that did.
So you think Riptide with its belts, possibly, the thing is, I worry,
Riptide's got a lot of redundancy as well, is the thing.
Yes. And I guess to talk more for Riptide, it's, you have this big Ed beater. I do worry about this hammer, this bar, whatever they choose, they will most likely choose the Mary Special. It coming over and getting caught in the opening in Riptide's egg beater, and just somehow, some way, having this bend into a weird S shape, weirder things have happened. Or if the hammer's down, they don't retract it enough, and here comes Riptide and catches it in such a weird way, and I can see some strange things happening if Shatter doesn't get on top of them right away.
Riptide have a lot more to go through than they did with Duck, though, which is
I mean, Shatter has all what you can't see underneath all those shiny little panels is all the UHMW that is almost 4 inches thick in certain areas, designed to just take all the abuse it possibly can,
right?
So they can absorb some of that.
On the front, don't they then have a metal piece and then have the billet behind that?
Yeah.
which is just an incredible armor package to have on your front end. It's
kind of a reactive armor in a way, right? Let's just
take the hit and then hope and see what happens afterwards. I'll be honest, my confidence in it is kind of, it depends on what Riptide turns up. If it's the Riptide that fought against Defender and kind of struggled towards the end, Shatter have got a great chance.
And their weapon kind of bludgeons more than cuts.
Correct.
So that's another thing. You know, like I don't know.
Nobody knows. Well, Pete does, yes, of course.
Pete knows. We've been over this.
I know all the secrets.
Number 11. Let's talk about number 11, which I think is the surprise package of last season, without any shadow of a doubt, is Tantrum. And what a great...
The bracket breaker.
Literally.
Yeah, we could do it again.
It's so, for context here, Pete, we spoke to Aaron last year, and we spoke to him this year, and to his face, we said, we don't think you're going to beat SawBlaze, and we invited him back this year. The first thing we did was apologise. Because
good. I'm glad you had to.
Oh my goodness.
That was another one of my most favorite fights.
It's a remarkable fight.
Watching Tantrum make SawBlaze's game not happen. That's what they did. SawBlaze has this dustpan, even though it's not a full dustpan, the way those forks are laid out are designed to scoop another robot into them. They can't really get that robot out, and then they can just attack the top of the robot.
Correct.
Aaron never gave Jameson the chance. Like, he never was in the sweet spot for SawBlaze. He was always under SawBlaze and just defeated Jameson's ability to attack
with his anti-horizontal setup, of all things. Like, I mean, who would have thought? I mean, what strikes me as amazing is obviously, you know, Tantrum had this amazing leap forward last season. You know, it kind of went from this peculiar little flipper thing that we saw fighting Battle Royale with Cheese to a robot that's now finished in the top 4 and is unbeaten this season.
Yeah.
And
which, again, I kind of thought, because there was a new team at the helm of it, or
with Alex and Ginger, it's a changing the guard, you know, is it going to be the same team, you know, where it's...
But the driving has still been on point. It's like he's still there at the controls. And I think that's a testament to how well built this thing is, that it's just, it goes where you put it. And
David? Is David the driver? Oh, God, I'm forgetting the driver's name. Aaron will yell at me.
Guy that looks like one of our friends called Ned, which doesn't help you, but
no, it doesn't
he does look like
I believe
our
his name's
friend
David, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But you know, Tantrum's magnets underneath is such a, like, they really have gotten their magnets to work, as like Shatter also, who also has a very good magnet system, and that's part of the things. They stay on the ground.
They do.
But one of the things I remember a long time ago when I used to do karate was, the worst place you could be is in the air. So if you did some jump kick or something, that's the time for the opponent to catch you, because you have nothing to work against. You're just floating. You got your momentum.
We have a kinship with that, Pete, as you can see in my beautiful wall here.
Yeah. And so that, Tantrum staying on the ground is the key to their win.
Definitely. And it's been so impressive to see them just like evolve from this kind of weird low end, middle of the card machine to now, like, oh my God, I've got to fight Tantrum next. You know, it's a big fear now. You know,
it's the way to get. They have found a way to get your weapon fully up to speed and make sure that you get really good engagement every single time. Every time, I'm just going to punch my weapon into you, and you're going to have to just deal with it.
And another great thing is when the weapon is retracted,
it's protected,
and they're spinning it up to speed, and they go and pop under another robot, then the undercarriage of that other robot is sitting on their weapon.
It's similarly to how you said about how Cobalt works, that it's lifting it up and then hitting. It's same principle with Tantrum's wedge. It's just like, up you go, now I'm hitting you.
It's almost like there's a parallel for like our one longest running video game right now that is robot based, that currently, it's Robot Arena 2. So you have that. So in that game, there's a design you can make called a gut ripper, and the idea is that you get up underneath somebody and you just all these spikes just happen out of the inside on a wedge, but you're underneath them and the weak underbelly, unless you covered it with casters like a cheater. But in any case, the idea is that you rip the whole underbelly out and, you know, super amount of damage. I mean, this is a real life version of something like that, where you just have your weak the underbelly. Ideally, would be you're not expected to get hits
right
under there. The idea is have people not get underneath you. That's the trick, is trying to make a robot that you could punish people for getting underneath you. But like the thing is, there's no like counter for a wedge. Like say a bot gets underneath another bot, there would be a way to like counter that and say, hey, you shouldn't get underneath me because I have such and such a thing. This is where my mind goes. So, but yeah, Tantrum, man, they can make a run. They could.
Okay. They could just as easily make a run. And I mean, I would do not discount Ginger and Alex, even though they're sort of the new captains. They've actually done an amazing job in the fight part. So, the team, the Blip / Tantrum team are all kind of together, even though they are working on separate bots. Mm-hmm. The thought processes still get shared amongst both teams.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That seems reasonable.
Aaron wants to kind of become like what the Wyachis are, right? They can be a family that fields multiple bots. Mm-hmm. Aaron wants to be the mad scientist that has all these wonderful bots underneath him. That's like, I created all these crazy.
We'll get to
attack.
Run my minions.
We'll get to this in a minute.
There you go.
We'll get to this in a minute. But let's talk about number 10.
Okay.
The home team, Jackpots.
Wow.
It's been such a long time since we've seen them fight. Which is very strange.
But what a story!
How many episodes ago has it been?
Ooh, was it episode 4? Wow! So 6 episodes ago.
It seems longer than that when we saw the Heartbreaker.
But they had a bunch like sort of really close together within episodes, didn't they? And then,
the last time we saw them was episode 4. Yep, against Malice. That was it.
Yeah, I had episode 1 and 4, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. My thing is with Jackpot is, obviously a lot more money's been spent on it this year than it was last season, because last year it really was just a $4,000
$6,000 bot.
Yeah, literally. And the fact that they've gone now 5-0 in 2 pre-seasons is just astonishing. Like the fact that we spoke to Jeff previously, that team just works so hard and tear it down every fight, strip it all out, put it all back in again. It works a little bit better, and it shows. It really does show.
And they also very much prescribe to the KISS theory, the keep it simple, stupid, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, that's one of the reasons why it works so well, is they've not put a lot of complexity. They've just, how simple can we make this and keep it tough? And
they've done a great job. They've done a great job. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't promise us anything it can't do, right? It's as you said, it is simple enough, but like the branding is everything. They all just know what they're doing. It's just incredible. And tough match for them against Tombstone, I think, to say the very least.
That one hurts.
Yes.
I mean, they had the same thing last year.
No home field advantage here.
They fought Rotator last year, didn't they? And that was not an easy one. And this is arguably as hard, if not harder.
But they're, I think, better prepared for it. With the big front wedge and the Heartbreaker, the formula is there that you can beat Tombstone with that setup. We saw it with Bite Force, with the Thanos Stone armor, as it was branded way back when. It's doable. You can beat Tombstone. It's not infallible, but it's going to be a difficult one.
And at the same time, Tombstone making contact with the spinning weapon is also just as devastating. Like, the Heartbreaker or the diamond.
I would have to think they go with the Heartbreaker to have that big wedge at the front. I maybe. We'll see.
I mean, to fight a Tombstone, you probably would. So
we will see.
But those can easily taco, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they go straight through
so hard.
Yeah. Again, they go straight through its own bulkheads. It could be potentially devastating for it. We'll see. Number 9 into single figures now.
Number 9.
Oh boy.
Glitch.
Oh, I love Glitch.
Surprise!
I love it so much.
Glitch has been
so happy.
Considering they're all so young as well. Like they're all kids.
Yeah.
They are. They're all in college.
Yeah.
And they were having so many difficulties. Like they getting through safety, getting this bot working, not having wires just explode and burn up. I'm like, there was a lot of problems. Like they were there. The reason why Kyle always looks like a deer in the headlights is because he's maybe slept an hour every day. Like if that, right? I mean,
he's used to it. He's a college student. Come on now.
They have worked their butts off, and they were so stunned to be where they're at. But Glitch has something that seems to have hit this amazing sweet spot, which is the angle of attack on the slope, as well as just the angle of the body. Robots that come to attack it never get an edge. They always ride up and get delivered to the egg beater. Like, it is this perfect delivery system, which has been amazing to see how well that's actually worked. They still need some practice. They don't have Adam Wrigley level of driving skill when it comes to the Omni.
I'm very glad you bring this up.
A lot of work.
Yeah, I'm very glad you bring this up.
It is a hard task to do Omnis.
Big time.
And they could stand to really practice. But this robot didn't exist until the day of their first safety inspection, right? Like, I remember going back there and there were these billets that are the body shape, and they were just empty. Right?
Yes.
Like,
there was a guest we had on earlier this year. Yeah, there's a guest we had on earlier this year that said that their robot was always apart every time we passed their pit.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing to think as well that, as I said, they are all college students. They're all, as I said, Kyle was 19 when they was being filmed. Like, it just makes you feel very inadequate. It's they've done such an amazing. Don't compare yourself to other people saying you're doing fine. I know. But my point is more, they've done such an amazing job considering, they've got very little combat robot experience, let alone heavyweight experience, and it's a good good story. I think the fact that they've kind of come from nothing, not nothing, but you know what I mean. Like, they've come from fighting. They fought Ghost Raptor. It wasn't really working out, but they managed to get through it anyway. And then they beat Hydra, and then they knock out Kraken, which is nigh on.
Yeah, the unknockable. Like, I mean, honestly, Kraken just doesn't die usually ever.
It's just credit to them, absolutely credit to them. They deserve to be where they're at, and then they've got to fight Witch Doctor. So
they do, and it's interesting because the Witch Doctor team have somewhat of a ground clearance to get under, and as you said earlier, the stance of Glitch is somewhere right to get perhaps the angle on them.
Drives bots from the side. Anybody coming in from the edge still gets driven up into the egg beater. Like, it isn't like you've got a wall to go work against. You just slide up it and you're in the egg beater.
My biggest concern was that Glitch didn't work upside down. They have put test footage out to show that it can, which is encouraging to see. So, it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm looking forward to it. It's another one that is sort of on my radar of this could be a real banger of a fight.
Yeah, it could also be an upset that obviously, the higher seed, is Glitch, but it still could be,
it would still be an upset
huge
if it beat Witch
deal.
Doctor.
Big time.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Witch Doctor have obviously been around for an awfully long time, so we'll see. Number 8.
Oh, Joe.
Copperhead.
Oh my!
There's the other drum. There's the other drum we were talking about. First of all, I'm very excited to see what kind of artwork they put on the drum, because oh my god!
So she paints those every time.
Yeah.
I mean, they are beautiful. If you've gotten, I know that the camera's gotten a couple times has shown off the things, and they've, I think, posted social media.
They did, yeah.
But like the one with Fusion, with the snake in a lab coat with a little beaker and a couple little atomic symbols, it was like.
I'm gonna hazard a guess. It's gonna be a snake with a cup rolling some dice, or something like that.
Like a wrapped its tail around and.
Yeah.
Something I don't remember which one they painted, but she does a great job every time. And this bot is tough. It is like Minotaur, just this. As small as you can make a bot to make 250 pounds, and as tight as you can pack everything.
I think it was accidentally one of the first matchups we knew of the season was a certain individual doing a live video walking around the pits, showing off all the robots, and it just pans onto the drum, and there's a shot of Copperhead versus Lockjaw, and we're like, oh.
It's easy done.
No matter how hard you try. Stuff makes its way.
Of course it does. I'm excited to see how Copperhead does. Again, it's the fact that it's an 8 seed is kind of surprising considering they were so high last year. But of course, obviously, part of the condensed schedule, they're only getting 2 fights in the end. Intriguing to see where Copperhead goes this season.
Yeah, we haven't seen their best yet,
especially considering last season when they got into the bracket. It all went very wrong for them very quickly. So it's exciting to see if they can kind of put that kind of demon behind them.
It was weird.
Go ahead.
Copperhead's season sort of started a lot stronger than it ended up going for them last year, because you sort of saw towards the end of their Black Dragon fight they started to slow down and some of the gremlins were coming back, and then the mammoth fight, of course, the weapon goes down a couple of times, and it's just like, well,
where does it go from here, sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have come into this season, had the fight against Lockjaw, similar-ish gremlins still rearing their head, and then I can't remember what their second fight was. Fusion. Yeah.
It kind of broke Fusion a bit, didn't it?
That was a
touch, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure their seeding has a little bit to do with. I mean, they could be higher, but I'm sure it has to do with past events and stuff like. I mean, that does play in. So
yes, it very much plays in.
So yeah. So I mean, their last bracket showing wasn't maybe exactly what they wanted, but this time they'll be getting the second chance at it, and I think they're gonna make the most of the second chance, because it's. You never know how many chances you're going to have at this level. So, you never know who's coming in the wings.
You may only get one, and some people get 4. So,
There you go. There you go. Number 7 is the guy whose shirt I'm repping today, Blip.
Worst robot
feels so mighty and hard.
Hate this bot. Don't like it at all. Nothing about this bot that I find.
You're a terrible liar. You're a terrible little liar.
Yes. I love this thing. Yeah. God, it's so cute, and it's just amazing technology inside. Like, I was so squidgy when I was talking to Aaron about it. Like, it was so exciting.
I was going to say there was that amazing clip of you talking with Aaron about Blip. And I'm so gutted they couldn't put that in the main show. And I'm so glad they released it. But
I'm glad they did too. I wish there were things we learned production wise. Like the mask made my voice. Like we could barely pick up what a good mic off of it. Mm-hmm. So I had to sort of redo my stuff basically in voiceover later because it just was being muffled so much by the mask I was wearing that we went ahead and sort of recovered some of my stuff over that. But that was such a fun one. I did I did about 3 things that I had a great time. Cobalt, I have a really good interview that I did with them. There was a really fun one I did with Adam about Shatter, talking about the Omni wheels. And then, of course, Blip is, of course I'm a nerd out about Blip. I wanted to. Like, I mean, if you look inside, you're just amazed. It's like looking at Chomp's legs, like the amount of engineering and creativity that went into these designs.
I don't think there's been a robot in recent years that has sparked the imagination of the community
quite
as much as Blip.
No, you're right.
Like the number of smaller scale blips I've seen being made is at least 3 Beetles I know of, a featherweight, a couple of amp weights, all using similar styles to how Blip does its weapon.
What a thought. You don't have to have compressed gas. Like, hey, that's a great thing. I don't have to use hydraulics. I don't have to use gas.
So much neater.
I'm just using a motor. Yeah, it is. Well, it's actually not neater if you if you could see what it takes to take the Dyneema and wind it with the grease. I mean, it looks like you just dissected a cat. But, it's phenomenal. Like the first time they did that without the grease in it, the rope just went it just did not come undone. It bound to itself. It like heated and melted like it was insane. Yeah, some of the early tests were pretty funny.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see how it gets on in the round of 32. Its fight against Valkyrie is going to be... I mean, the fact that they made it there 3-0. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I mean, Aaron's team has 2 bots.
I know.
Yep. That's surely not been done before. Even
they did last year. Fusion
they did do it. Oh, of course it was. Yeah. Fair enough. Nobody's done it as impressively as this. This
team. Shots fired.
Wow.
Make Reese and Jake just sort of...
Jake's never coming back on the podcast now. You know that, don't you, John?
Well, if you play the heel, expect the...
Right.
Well, Reese says bad words on television.
Yeah, he's naughty.
I say bad words on television.
You got bleeped.
Oh my god!
As well.
How did we not bring this up yet?
No idea.
Oh, Pete.
So Sam has had to go.
Yes.
Sad times had by all. Which means we get to finish off and we get the privilege of Pete for a bit longer.
Yes. Get them all to ourselves. So now
number 6, as you can see on screen, is indeed Rotator, who have had quite the season to start with, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. They've had well, Rotator's always been a contender. I mean, ever since, well, I got to be honest with you, their first showing out, like this first little robot with the 2 wheels and the discs, and and barely having a fight against Witch Doctor, you're like, oh, this robot's never gonna have a chance, but it's gonna be just this gimmick.
From season 2 to where it is now.
Little did you know, this thing is gonna turn heads, and oh my, it's basically Blue Flame now, but gold.
Flame.
Yeah, Gold Flame. I love the way this thing looks always, and I love the way it drives. Victor just has a way with the sticks, and he just has such control over this robot. I don't know how
he does.
Well, it is box side where it just has this. It just looks so easy for him. So
that's about practicing driving and having a high level of confidence in what your robot is capable of. That's crucial. Is like, how well does it drive? Are we recording?
Yeah,
we are recording. Yeah.
Okay.
And he is he is the master tactician too, where he'll remove pieces, add pieces. Those forks work to perfection.
He's got so many setups, and he's just
the Black Dragon fight is a perfect example of how well this robot can work when it's at full form. Yes. So it's just wonderful, and I do hope that he gets a good drive through here. I mean, well, the thing is, say he gets past Captain Shrederator, he's got most likely. I mean, who knows who comes out of that?
It could go either way for
either
Tantrum
or Gigabyte. Let me look. If he gets past Captain Shrederator,
Tantrum
or Gigabyte.
Or Gigabyte. And then
and then Cobalt, Yeti, ICEWave, or Whiplash.
Good luck.
About that heat or that section of death, I think that we found a third one.
I think I'm to the point now where I could say everywhere is bad.
Everywhere is bad.
Everywhere is bad. Had a nice win against Kraken this year and Black Dragon, both by judge's decision. That's one thing with Rotator that I think does hurt it. It doesn't have that knockout punch, but it'll grind you down. Where like it's just got to get you in the right spot. But he does certainly play a lot with the judges, and it has burned him in the past. So we will see. See what happens in this match coming up here against Captain Shrederator, and see how well this bracket run goes for him, or if it's an early flame out and then scratching your head and waiting for next season.
Well, I mean, with 2 horizontal spinning items, it's going to be interesting to see how this will be obviously about the durability of each bot as they get launched from each other. Or do they mesh? It depends on, we'll see how it goes.
And of course, we alluded to earlier, it's a rematch from Bounty Hunters last year where these 2 fought, and the physics in that were wild. I mean, Rotator went flying, landed every flip it did through the air, and came in for more. It's just the durability of this thing has shot up across the seasons. It's up there as a top tier bot now, I reckon.
Totally.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I completely agree.
We do miss the double discs though, but
I do. There's a look of that, but I love that look. But
I do feel every time I
understand what he's doing.
Every time we bring up Rotator, we have to mention we do miss the double discs.
It's just such an iconic look. There's nothing else that looks like this. Like when BattleBots would puts out in their the white paper how to build a bot. Like when you look at a silhouette of this, it's Rotator. You absolutely 100% know. Not that you wouldn't know now looking at it now, but it's just just so iconic. I know he'll never go back to it. We've talked to him before, but
and
he's already on a path.
This works so well.
Yes, it does.
Sam, edit in here. Number 5 seed is Uppercut, who they are a force to be reckoned with. They have been bodying things left, right, and centre. They shot a Gemini out of the arena last season. They blew up SawBlaze. They've now blown up another robot.
Or free shipping.
Oh yeah,
poor Gary.
Free shipping was quite possibly one of the largest fireballs we've ever had inside the
fire
arena.
Tornado.
It was so big that it actually caused a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Here, that's how marketing works, right?
Yeah, exactly. So big it caused a T-shirt. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just
making Jason Bartis want to pull one out of his closet of days old. I could still hang with these guys with my fire.
It's so crazy, this bot. I can't remember who was its second matchup against.
It was up against Gigabyte.
That was it. Yeah, we did speak about
where I got big sad.
Yeah. And even I think the Gigabyte fight proved to be sort of a bit wily for the driving though. As soon as you hit and it's just bouncing off the floor and doing
it does have this chaotic
rolls.
energy when it hits things. It's got to absorb all that energy. Yes, it does have that vert advantage of having the ground beneath you and you're hit, but with the way that the weight balancing is, I couldn't figure. But like whenever it hits, it just it spazzes. And I do worry about that for controllability, where it just ends up in a spot where it's just vulnerable for just that touch, and it gives a skilled driver a chance to come in and get them, which Gigabyte unfortunately didn't take advantage of in their fight. But the fact that it was there does make me nervous for them. Like I know that their fight against Huge, we'll see how well that they can handle such a strange machine as Huge.
Especially with the new chins.
Yeah, with the new chins, and seeing if they could hold up to the beatings that we know Uppercut can deliver. I'd be curious to see how tough they are against Huge's blade too. I imagine we'll see whether or not Huge is spinning up or down, whether or not that comes into play. But I mean, it's a wonderful machine, wonderful team. Alex is a wonderful guy. He can yo-yo with the best of them, and he always loves showing that off in those clips.
VTs.
In my bracket, when I sort of weighed it out, Uppercut is my end win. So when I filled out my bracket before we started the 32, that was my winner.
It's got quite a nice little journey, to be fair. It's got
totally
either Shatter or Riptide, which it's Uppercut. And then it's got either P1, Hypershock, HiJinx, or SawBlaze, and again it's Uppercut. So it's, it could easily make a top 4. But again, we said similar last year.
A possible rematch with SawBlaze and a possible chance for another explosion. I don't think JMO would let that happen again. We will see.
Well, you'd hope not. JMO
at least stay inside the white box, please. So we don't feel the heat. But I mean, we will have to wait and see how tough Uppercut, see if they can fight at or above their weight class, and see if they can come up with a good finish, because it's a bot that when it first showed up, you're like, oh, this silly spinner looking thing.
The progression of this robot is so massive in such a short space
of time.
Like,
why a fist? Like, that's silly. No, it's real.
I mean, it was doing some
very real.
Yeah, it's been doing some lovely little hits in the sort of 2019 season, and then it gets to 2020 and it starts taking names. 2021, it's on this upward trajectory of just taking out whoever it faces.
They might be ready.
It's crazy to think that this robot has only come out in the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Just waiting.
I mean, Alex, just the amount of work and research and he does in maintaining the, how the speed controllers are programmed to really get the energy he wants out of this system. Like he works at it. It is not just sort of like, I'll just plug this in and I press go.
Fingers crossed.
There's so much more. He puts a lot of science in it.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of,
very, very much a rematch partner. The number 4 seed is SawBlaze.
Yeah, becoming the poster child of every start of the season, where this robot is just, it's all of its fights are entertaining. Okay, let's say even the quick out, still a remarkable moment.
The question is there. So
Yes.
Pete, was SawBlaze versus Endgame playing in for the number 1 seed?
If SawBlaze had won that, they would have been number 1. I'm pretty sure of that. Had they beat Endgame, who was last year's champion, they would have been number 1.
That's the thing. We're like, you have the 1 seed. The 1 seed's going to be like, if the champion goes undefeated in the season, they're the 1. That's it. There's nobody that can match them. That's totally understandable. But if SawBlaze had knocked them off, that would have been one hell of a scalp.
SawBlaze would have been 3-0, right?
Yes.
And they would have been number 1.
Had been completely dominant in their previous 2 fights. I mean,
against
to
Minotaur.
start the season against Minotaur, a year off, and you think this robot is one of the like the premier bots in the tournament, and it just makes it look like an amateur.
Yeah, it is one of those sort of triangles in the in BattleBots that Minotaur can beat Endgame can beat SawBlaze can beat Minotaur. It's just like This is your game of rock paper scissors right here.
Yes.
Good
Yes.
luck with that. But yeah, they have everything going for them. I mean, it's given the path that he can take through the tournament, I think that it's JMO's tournament to lose. I really think he's got a good shot. Say he makes it all the way to the semis and a rematch against Endgame, I would love to see that if the bracket holds up. Because we got stolen away a possibility. I'm sure the pits were so upset because when you see that card, you're like, oh, this is going to be...
they were upset.
Yes.
They wanted to go again. They were like, no, stick it back in the starting square. Let's go.
With the shortened schedule. With the shortened schedule, and oh, this is what we got. Like, if this is the way it's gonna fall, if this is what was meant to happen, it's got to lay as it is. Yeah. But yeah, I highly rate SawBlaze. I'm tempted to put them as my winner, even if I
JMO's I mean, he is champion material. Like the way he comes off, like the amount of energy he focuses on and where he wants to put. When I send out my email a month or 2 months out to all the builders, like, where are you? What's going on? What have you been working on? Like, what is your biggest problem right now? Like, what is your sticking point? And he always comes back with this giant list, and they're all these teeny little things.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm really worried about this. Like, Jameson, that's not a worry. He goes, no, it's got to be right. Like, he wants it perfection. And that's why he's where he is. Like, you don't get to be this without putting in that kind of work.
No, and he keeps it up. He keeps it up all year long, where he has his Ron series of rows where Megatron just takes names, and Silent Spring and Silent X, and like he's always constantly working. And that's what's nice about a lot of these builders that come to BattleBots is that they're always working on something, whether or not be the big bot. They're always tinkering. They're always learning on a smaller scale, and that's one nice thing about the smaller events around the country is that you can kind of test things out on the smaller scale and see if they would work to be to be a heavyweight scale. And we've seen a lot of bots this year and past years even where there's this growth of what you started out with on a smaller scale, where you saw with Defender and Malice, and I mean there's so many robots.
Well, I feel Megatron is the one that sort of paved the way for it, really, because obviously he started out with that design as a smaller robot, has made it bigger for SawBlaze, and then refined it to become more and more like Megatron actually is.
Right.
And it's just a beast. Both of them are. All of them are.
I need to go to Norwalk one of these times.
Me too. Me too, honestly.
They would be all over you, Pete.
Well, they wouldn't. They all know me. Like it's not like when I go to the pits, I'm anything special. Like we all know each other. We all drank beer together.
We all hang together. One of these days.
Nobody's special to them. Okay.
You're special to us.
Oh.
The number 3 seed, last year's overall number 2 was Whiplash.
We have a soft spot for Matty Vasquez here.
Oh,
he's one of our favorites.
It feels wrong he's not been on the podcast yet.
Oh, you need to get him. I am not supposed to obviously have favorites, because I'm supposed to be impartial. But Matt, his driving is some of my favorite driving.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't know. They never say it on the show.
Like watching Victor.
Yes.
You can see Matt make changes in the fights. You can witness him do things that are very conscious and very specific, and how he puts that robot.
Yeah.
I always go back to him versus Whiplash versus Son of Waiachi. Yes. And they had the spinning weapon and 2 pieces of armor that were on the left and right side on either side of the weapon. And Waiachi rips off the right side. And then Matt, you can consciously see him adjust Whiplash on the attack to always present the left side. That's the kind of shit that just sends me giddy through the roof, is witnessing somebody in the chaos that is the battle box be able to deliver stuff, or stuff when he's pinned in a certain way and he just takes the weapon and swings it over his back and makes contact with the robot behind him.
I'll tell you now, part of that comes down to how good the robot is, because actually I've been really enjoying doing the same thing with the Hexbug toy.
It really is
so
so
intuitive
fun
to drive, and it's so much. it's like the real thing. Both the SawBlaze and the Whiplash are exactly like the real thing, and
I've yet to go get them myself. I want them, but
they're great.
Yes.
They really do. It really does translate how the full scaled up one, does what it does so well, and it's just
it is almost symbiotic that the robot and the driver work in perfect unison, and they just do what they do and always do well.
But can he take it one
consistently good robots? It's always finished.
Yes.
I mean,
aside from its splatter, that first start of trying to learn and see if this idea worked. So
they spend, they do a really good job of tearing it all down in between each fight and putting it back together. And Matt's confidence in what his bot can do shines in how he drives. That's the thing, is he never has to think about, that motor's going to overheat, so I really got to let off on the weapon. No, he just assumes it's going to do exactly what he needs it to do and be able to do, put it where he wants to without worrying that, I might be too far on the edge. Whiplash is just solid. It always works.
It's interesting to note he's made some tactical decisions and some potentially risky ones that have all paid off to not use that spinner yet. It hasn't even been attached to the robot in a fight.
Exactly. We've only seen it in a sort of a lifter configuration right now. It's been working for him.
Is the primary weapon on his by his own admission is the lift. The spinner is obviously is the point getter. But it's lifter first and control first, and it's one of the best spots to do that control aspect, honestly. And it's also nice to see some sparks fly, because that's not only do we like, but I'm sure production loves that too.
And do you know what? Against ICEWave, which is who he's going to be facing, he may well not put it on for that either. He may just go in as a lifter.
I don't know how you could.
Bloodsport configuration, it worked out perfectly.
Perfectly, yeah.
So
we might have to wait even longer. We may have to wait even longer.
It preserves a whole weapon setup for the robot, but on the flip side of that, it means he's not getting any test data in for this season.
Exactly. So say when he bolts, I'm sure. Well, fingers crossed, they're fine.
But he's not
getting that intel. Yeah, not getting that intel. Sure, I would hope he didn't, because it worked perfectly fine last year. So but not having that intel, and that's actually kind of an interesting segue, because we're going to get to a team that I will say, and I had said in a previous podcast, that they might have had a little bit of a favorable mix of opponents, where they didn't have to worry about high energy. And this is number 2 seed, big breakout season for them, and that's Ribbot.
Yeah, they were concerned. When we had them on the podcast a few weeks ago, they were concerned at this point in the season. They hadn't faced a spinner yet this year, so they didn't really know how this Ribbot would hold up to him. And boy howdy, they're going to have to wait a bit longer, because they've got the winner of Hydra or Defender. Yeah. But it's coming. If they can get through that.
Yeah, if it's coming, they're going to have one of 2 very scary spinners in either Mad Cat or Black Dragon. But what a season for them. What a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. Another WPI robot just tearing through the competition. They just know how to breed them there. But what we had a wonderful conversation with 3 of the team members. Yeah, and David and just the group of them, and they were all wonderful, and they really have one scary machine. It is such a high voltage machine too. When we first heard about this 250 volts, it's silly.
As we were saying to
it's an IED on wheels. It's scary.
We were having conversations over dinner after one of the Beetleweight events in the UK, and even the builders over here couldn't believe how many volts were going through it. It's bizarre. It's
actually, in terms of like OSHA or whatever, it's not considered high voltage. 1,000 volts is considered high voltage.
Okay.
Your electric cars, Teslas and stuff, are at 400 volts. So the great thing about what they were doing with that is they were using much smaller battery packs that all had very specific links to, or fuses to blow if something went wrong. So you're also running a much lower amperage due to Ohm's law, right?
Yes.
So that was their wire diameter could shrink. There was all of these things that they could do, that because they're not putting nearly as much amps into the system to be a little more efficient. And I was pretty happy with sort of the way that was. It does seem like, oh my God, that's such high voltage, but
high voltage for our application. Where like you don't see robots
it's
with
higher voltage than our normal application. But yes.
But they've had
somebody who ran 144 volts back in the day, I know. So
okay. Well, in any way, but they had a pretty nice season so far.
They're sitting at a reasonably good position, far better than last year. Bear in mind, last year they'd gone through a lot of their weapon setups and only had, was it the Undercutter they had left, or was it the Vert they had left? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Wasn't it the Vert they had left?
Quite possibly.
It's all a blur. It usually always ends up being.
And they managed to muddle their way through to face off against Black Dragon, who took them out last time, of course. And they fixed the main thing that held them up in that fight, in that they couldn't self-right. Well, they now have the self-righting arm.
Right.
So,
which they haven't had to worry about using so far against bots that could have flipped it. Yes. Where you had its fight against Overhaul, like where there was a possibility where Overhaul could have got a grip on it and maybe tossed it over. But its fight against them and then also against Defender was a nice way to test the weapon system and kind of get the grease going in the change. You know what I mean? Like trying to stretch out a little bit. And then the fight against P1, where you have this just really stout, low to the ground bot that was just hard to catch anything on. So that's an interesting way to go about fighting Ribbot, is try to make it so that you have no catch points. So that's hard, but it's either that or you just hide under the floor. But it's just, I really think that they have a really, I mean, of course, being the 2 seed, they have a really good chance. Yeah, a chance. I mean, we're in Vegas after all. They have a really good
roll the
really
dice.
I mean, with the way that this part of the bracket sets up, it's a very dangerous side. They're all dangerous, but like with them going through, even if they get through the round of 16, get to the 8, they'll have to fight one of Blip, Valkyrie, Jackpot, or Tombstone, all of which are super destructive or super scary in their own right. With Blip, I mean, I can't imagine seeing a frog fly, but that would be awesome. But I rate them highly. I think everyone does. I wouldn't be surprised if people have them. Many brackets across the country have them
going all the way.
Yes, I would see that. And darn it if another nut goes to WPI.
I mean, as well, to all those that are saying Ribbot was a joke bot, no.
Right. When it first showed up, you got these big foam froggy legs.
It was
silliness.
never a joke bot. What was hidden underneath there was never a joke. The weapons were not mild by any standards.
What they got underneath the hood, underneath the cute exterior, is a true killer.
Yeah.
So I rate them highly, and I wish them the best of luck.
Which just leads us to the number 1.
Yes.
Who could be number 1?
The undisputed threat from down under, Thunder under Runder. It's Endgame. We are in the Endgame now.
How did Endgame become number 1?
How did they choose that? Darn those that committee. How could they do such a thing as to give the Kiwis?
Yeah,
man. I don't know if it's. I don't know if I've ever seen a robot have such a. And I hate to say it, it's disrespectful to other teams, but it seems like they've had such an easy go. You know, just everything. It's just like through the wind, fighting Witch Doctor, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Just
SawBlaze, possible deep
Hydra?
run or 2. See ya.
We'll go
Hydra,
flying.
whatever. Then again, that Hydra fight was kind of rough, but you know,
they're never. I mean, this is just the chaos. Like that first hit that they get that ends up going their direction.
Yes,
ends up being the thing that gives them the win. I mean, it's so the chaos is always so high with these kind of robots. They're just trying to reduce, in any way, shape, or form.
Try to reduce the randomness. Yes. I mean, what do you think?
They had 8 weapon discs to be able to go through. They're ready for
one per fight.
So that's never an issue for them.
They're presently 11-0 after last season. They are on to a Bite Force streak.
Their one hiccup against what was it?
Oh, in fact, it's 10-1. I do apologize. Yeah,
it was against Ribbot.
Yeah. No, they lost one last year as well, didn't they, to Bloodsport?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yes. That was right.
Still, very scary thought.
Yes.
That they are
have
on
a
such
pretty
a big
darn good record.
Yeah. What stops them? Honestly, what stops
themselves? Literally.
A well-placed Minotaur, lucky.
I mean, if they get flipped and land the wrong way, if somebody just catches, like, what if they fought a glitch, right? And rode up on glitch, and the corner of their bot ended up in the egg beater, right?
This is an instance where we really haven't seen their self-rider tested, and they've had trouble with that in the past. They haven't had to test it because they've just been bulldozing everything.
Yes.
So I mean, it's hard not to pick them to go through until they show a chink in their armor.
And so far we have yet to see the chink. They've not revealed it because they've been very diligent in the pits. They really are operating as a very professional team. When I go talk to them and how they're doing their thing, one morning they were making pancakes and bacon, but that's.
They are all business.
They do what they do.
Yeah. I feel like the first time they showed up where Jack calls out, "I want Tombstone," and you think, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you fighting? Are you punching, above your weight class here?
Nope.
Not so much anymore. I think they've more than proved that they are here to stay and here to make.
Oh, they will fight their
happen.
way all the way through to another championship if it kills them.
Yes, definitely.
Just an unstoppable force, but always so humble about it. They're always so nice.
Yeah, they are a very nice bunch. I will say that too. It is one of those nice things to know that, like, you could be as brutal as you are in the arena, but everyone's friends in the end. It's the idea. That's one nice thing I like about this whole group of this robot fighting community, where it's like everyone's there. It's once the lights are on. I mean, it's 1-on-1. But
except for me and Al Kindle, we hate each other.
There we go.
worst friend. We're not friends at all. Pure enemies. Can't stand each other.
Oh boy,
it's on record now. There it is.
On record for what? I mean, I've known Al for I don't know how many years too, and Al and I are, of all the builders, he is the one that I usually at least once a week have some joke text between. Right? There's always some joke we're sending to each other. So yeah.
But that pretty much wraps it up. We've
34 robots in this 32.
Yeah, that's the question, Pete. That's the thing that we have to keep under wraps for quite a few more weeks.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. So that's the way.
And we won't even try and get it out of you.
No,
never.
We love this show too much.
Maybe some tickling, you might be able to get it out of it, but we're not going that way. So
no,
Pete, as always,
yes,
it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very, very much.
Everybody's always so they're so grateful to have me, and I'm like, I'll be on anytime you want, guys.
Yeah, no, honest, yeah.
Can't you tell? We always go long.
Interesting you say that. I've got a friend who asked a question. Actually, is unrelated to the bracket. How did you get involved with Battle Bricks?
Well, I know Aileen very well, who runs Bricks LA. I've been doing Lego and building stuff for quite some time. And since Battle Bricks is actually been up at BrickCon and BrickCan, and Aileen is up in Vancouver now, she and Will became friends, and she said, I know Peter. And that was it. That was the introduction. And so we just, Will and I got in touch and started talking. It was like, hey, sure, I'll do that for you. That sounds like fun. So
it was that first special that you were on was very entertaining indeed. Lots of good bot action. So if you haven't checked it out, I'm going to make Sam put a link in the description. He's not here, so he can't argue it.
There you go.
So yeah,
but he's in control of the edit. So
yeah,
well,
that's
that
true.
Shows up, but
we'll just be cut out. Just say over me, no.
Yeah.
Oh, it was great because Will had done an amazing job of script breakdown and sort of fight breakdown, and had all of his production pieces. And there it was like, Pete, Bot Whisperer, fill in here for which, whatever the fight was. And I would watch watch the fight, sort of go, okay, and I'd look at sort of any of the little write-ups that there were for each bot, and then I would just go record a 45-second little piece of me just yammering on about
Pete goes off here.
Basically, that's literally what it was. And so I would I just kept sending him, as I kept finishing them, these little just wave files of here's me just nerding out about a Lego bot. And then finally said, well, we want you to actually be the color commentating on the Rumble. And I was like, what? You want me to do 3 minutes? Don't you realize I filled my mouth with marbles after 45 seconds? Like, I can't keep going. And I had to do that one in multiple pieces and then edit it together. Because I am no Chris Rose. I am no Kenny Florian. The fact that they can stay on target and keep talking about what's going on blows my mind. Because if you watch my pieces enough, you'll see where after like 30 seconds or so, I start to lose the thought, and I know what I want to be saying, but my mouth isn't saying it.
And Jevin and Sam, if Sam was here, he would be very honest with you. You're shaking your head. I have a hard time articulating my words sometimes, and it comes across very often. But I'm trying to get better at it. But usually the thought is happening and the words just aren't coming out. Where, like,
I've honestly found doing live commentary for things helps. It really does, because you just don't have really the time to think about what's going on. You just start talking and carry on talking and don't stop until the fight is finished.
What I do really well is like comebacks. When Chris says something, a joke towards me, I'm usually immediately have something to throw back at it. But what I'm trying to deliver a topic about, how great is this, antibacterial gel thing, I lose my train of thought into it.
Not sponsored by whatever antibacterial gel that is.
Whatever, I don't even know. Something that, who knows. So
I had noticed they haven't thrown to you quite as much in the main season. Is there
a reason for that specifically, or is it just time?
We shot more than was there, but one of the things we did this year, last season, they came to me in front of every fight. And what was happening was I just didn't have anything to fill in every fight. Like, I just didn't have a topic to talk about. And so there was a lot of on the cutting room floor stuff because it wasn't good enough. And this time I went out and I talked to builders and I got props and I had a whole bunch of like stuff to be able to talk about. But those, due to how we had to edit to make an episode better, we had to move things that might have been on one day to another fight card. And so what would have usually been about 3 times coming to me would end up, maybe we only had one good spot that would work with this episode. So that kind of happened. We want to work on that. That is like when I was watching going, oh shit, I really blew this. I should have been talking about this fight, and I just need to be a lot more selective. Here I am telling you my whole process.
Hey,
I need to.
This could be helpful to somebody.
So helping me, I'm taking all the notes I can get.
I need to just sort of like pay attention to, all right, this is a SawBlaze fight, right? Yeah. This will probably be an amazing thing. I need to make sure I go out and talk to them and get a little piece for this.
Yeah.
And plenty of times also, I feed Kenny a huge amount of technical data. Like a team is coming in, I'm whispering on the headset, okay, Kenny, this is, Valkyrie, they're bringing in Dr. Teeth. That's an X number of pound weapon, and it usually spins at this RPM. And, I will feed those things. So then you'll hear Kenny sort of reiterate those.
So really, we're hearing you more often.
Once he's done it, like, we don't need to go to me. Like, we've already heard it from Kenny. So that's a lot of how those things go. It's like, it's hard to find, because I don't want Kenny to not have something to talk about. It's way more important for Kenny to have something to talk about. So finding the tidbit to save for me that will really work for me is sometimes is hard. I don't always have a thing.
Yeah. And that's okay. Sometimes the best thing to do is just let the fight do the talking.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know I've seen on the internet people have said we wish Pete were talking more, and I get it, but sometimes when I watch the episode, it's like, actually, I don't need to be here. There isn't a need for me in this spot.
Right. Yeah, and we have missed the pit reporting. I know with Jenny,
Jenny.
The scheduling just didn't work out. And we have that is something that we have missed from the episode, is somebody being able to go around and kind of mingle with the teams and stuff like that. But we've had those nice little cut-ins with, like in the last episode where they're picking, who's got the best chance of winning, going all the way. Right. It's like who's the contenders. Those are nice. But it's different when they're kind of set up behind a camera and they're having to sit and talk, where having someone like physically to talk to, there's a different dynamic there. But who knows?
We tried, like the thing about Blip,
yes.
The thing about Shatter, there's a thing about Cobalt, and there was I don't know if we got how good of a bit we got with SawBlaze. That was sort of the preliminary one that we'd done. I had done some stuff, like what we started realizing, when I was sort of had to raise my hand and say, guys, I'm not like the normal talent. I'm here every day, even on the off days.
I live and breathe this.
Yes, I'm always here. So use me. Yeah. But making sure that there's a camera crew and a production schedule to work on the repair days versus on actual shoot days. Because we have what we call dark days, which are union days off. But I don't get a day. I am always there. So I was like, guys, I'm here. If you can have a crew, then we can do this. And we didn't really get into that groove until too far into the shooting. And now we sort of know. And it's like, if Jenny doesn't come back due to more schedules or the baby she just is about ready to have any second.
Yes, that's a thing.
Then, I'm trying to be way more proactive in how I am there, and hopefully we can do more in the pits.
Yeah. Because we love all that stuff. We like to soak that all up. That's one of the things that, like, when it switched over from ABC to Discovery, all that behind the scenes stuff, all that stuff,
lapped it up.
Love just sinking the teeth into that. That's the stuff that, like,
I think what we really need is the return of that sort of more technical show they had after the 2018 season.
Was it Resurrection?
Yeah, BattleBots Resurrection, but hosted by Pete. I think that's what we need.
Da-da-da. In any case.
Sure. Yeah, I'll host it. Okay.
With all that being said.
Yeah. With that last thing, we have...
You might as well start, Steve.
Yeah.
He's not here.
I shall. I know. I'm so used to having him throw to me. But But Pete, thank you so much for having us, for having us and us having you. It's been a wonderful time talking to you. Come on anytime. We know you'll have us. We'll have you,
I'm just an email away. You guys know that.
Sir.
So
you know it.
I love this.
Yeah, but with that said, I am Steve the American Killjoy.
I am World of Woodrow.
I am Pete the Bot Whisperer Abrahamson.
And Sam sends his apologies.
Yes, he does send us apologies. But from now, place your bets. Things are happening. It's coming this week, Thursday.
Bracket
Make sure you
time.
get your bracket set. It's coming.
Always bet on black.
Always.
We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.